Get up and get out. Get out. Get out.
I have a question for you.
Say Christ is Lord. Say Christ is Lord. Say it. You say Christ is Lord. Get out. Get out. Christ is Lord.
Hello and welcome in to another episode of Offensively Accurate, hosted by yours truly, Atlas Thugged, aka White Boy Deep Voice, aka another racially ambiguous Groyper. And today's going to be a serious day. Flip-flop, we were unserious yesterday, we're going to be serious today. This will actually be another episode of Offensively Accurate. And I do appreciate everybody for being in here. O/to everybody in here, appreciate seeing you guys, my brothers in Christ and sisters in Christ for some of you. And just a quick bit of housekeeping before we get into everything. The Nick Fuentes and Joel Webben review series between me and Zeb Boykin will launch next Friday. That's going to be one that you guys, I'm sure, will be interested in. Typically because me and Zeb are at odds when it comes to Nick Fuentes. And I think also Joel Webben will also be one of those figures. So it'll be good conversation, I would imagine, as somebody who is pro Nick and pro Joel Webben. I think Zeb is less so. Also, just generally just shilling for NAV, New American Vision again coming back strong in 2026. We have good productions coming from people like John Ward. We're getting closer to bringing Josh on full time to be able to do things like clips as well, and running some few other accounts, seeing what else we can do with that. And also the big push for me, and I believe Zeb as well too, getting Vivek to not win in Ohio, as well as a few other things too. So make sure that you have already subscribed to the New American Vision. Again, that is at NAV_creators. That's going to be that's our flagship channel that kind of connects all of us there. Beyond that, though, I did want to say too, I just, again, I will be I will be streaming casually much more often. I typically had avoided it just because, I don't know, to be honest with you. But at the same time, I enjoy doing it, and I enjoy doing the long form streams. I guess maybe I've avoided it because I've always wanted to be a bit more professional when doing these things. But I will do it more casually. I'll come up with a different name and I'll try to separate it a bit better. That way someone clicking on like monitoring the situation and they see me wearing a turban or like what is going on. But more with that. To the actual news for today. There's a lot happening, as there has been for the last few days and pretty much ever since that we took Maduro from Venezuela. And I apologize for the glare on the glasses. I'll run through these real quick. This is why I avoid wearing the bigger ones, because they have this big massive glare from my screen. But they're my better glasses. So I'll take them off as we get closer into this. Just for the top of the hour, I count this right before we went live. The Pentagon is launching a 6-month review for effectiveness for women in combat roles. To the effect, and I would imagine, if they find therein that women are not as effective as the men, there's a chance that we remove women from combat roles. And this is amazing. And what perfect timing, too, off of the back of what most people would be looking at with the Minnesota incident being the typical, this is the liberal woman. This is the end result of a liberal female who is allowed to make choices and give them the full reign of the 19th Amendment. And man, it was music to my ears. And so that was a beautiful thing. I've also been seeing just general pushes for the 19th Amendment amidst everything going on. I've even seen some of that from the Black community as well. People just talking about the general idea of this. What is this woman doing? She already lost custody of her older children. Now she's dragging a 6-year-old into the middle of Minnesota when she has no business being there. And what perfect timing. What a perfect timing to drive the nail through the coffin on that specific issue. How far it goes, unsure, but this would be the moment, while there's momentum on the idea of women should not be left to their own devices, to continually push the idea that women should not be allowed to vote, simply because they just lack the capacity to be able to do so in a generally in a way that would be meaningful and not being exploited by consensus, emotion, or any other trait that they are typically inclined to agree with or to align themselves with. So that's the good stuff. Everything else after this is actually bad. No, just kidding. Some of it is for the most part. But I'm going to rip through these before we get into it. This is kind of the headline list we have here. We have Dan Bongino crashing out. That has continued to the next stage. And now it's gone on with Dave Smith. Now Dave Smith and Dan Bongino are going back and forth on the timeline. Dave Smith is ratioing him. But the first thing that I thought when I was seeing all of this was, who is liking Dan Bongino's post? Who is sitting there going to Dan Bongino and liking his post? And it's, to me, I'm going to be honest, this is some of the most cringy, goofball stuff I've ever seen posted in my life, to be honest with you. And seeing some of the swipes he's been taking at Dave Smith as well as others, and now it's becoming a running meme that Dan Bongino is, for one, a massive clown and he's being clowned upon, but two, that this guy went in and he was a warrior for coming in to be this, against the deep state. And in turn, after 9 months, he's basically turned around to becoming a deep state puppet. And we'll get into that too. Nick Fuentes and Jobin, again, I'll address it maybe towards the end of the show. It's less relevant now that more things have happened today. The big thing would be the fact that the body cam footage was released from the police officer there in Minnesota. And this is, in my opinion and in many others, 100% justifying the actions of the officer. And there's a few key details in there, 3 specifically that I'll point out. We'll cover that too. However, in general, what is less positive is just the general reaction across the country as well as what's happening in Minnesota. And what looked to be kind of a pathetic attempt to build a Chaz in Minnesota, much like was built in 2020, it's actually now gotten bigger and broader. And so what looked like they were just closing off the portion of the street, what we ended up getting beyond that was now they're blocking off multiple blocks in the street. Now it looks like it is expanding, but that's just in Minnesota. The radicalization across the board has been insane. There's been statements coming out from people from Philadelphia. There's been statements, now positive ones, coming actually out of Chicago, which caught me by surprise. But all across the country, from Seattle to all these different states, you essentially have these officials coming out, and they are not saying verbatim, we're declaring war on ICE, but they are saying and putting out extremely inflammatory rhetoric, but additionally making pro statements as in, GTFO. If you do these things, we will do these certain things to you. That specifically came from the AG of Philadelphia, which we'll look at too. On the other end, which is a bit positive, is it does look like the immigration enforcement wing of what we've been waiting for with the deportations has begun ramping up a little bit. We have some data to look at actually that show that this was ramping up in ways that we would have wanted it to actually way back in September, between September and November. And we have some data from AF Post we'll look at with some graphs there as well. But also, the additional pledge coming, what I would imagine coming from the big beautiful bill that did reallocate about $170 million. And Zeb Boykin noticed that I stole the picture from Zeb Boykin, and then I expanded it and made it look cleaner. But I thought it was a good photo. I was getting ready to actually say that. But the immigration enforcement looks like it is ramping up and expanding. Now, this does come with a couple portions attached to it. It's a report from USA Today, and it does come from the word of mouth from JD Vance. Typically, not what I'm going to be sitting there going, this is great news, and not somebody I find particularly trustworthy. However, in the reallocation from the big beautiful bill with the 170, I believe either million or billion, it's something crazy like that. But it was something, it'd be like the 3rd biggest budget of any military in the world, that they're now going to be getting around 22,000 ICE agents on the ground, up from what was around 12,000 the same time last year. So, well, same time last year, around just the general numbers from last year. So it looks like we're doubling the enforcement of the agents who actually be on the ground. And there's a few other elements too. They're actually outsourcing some portions of this to third-party companies to do things such as, let me find the term here. I had it on here somewhere. It's called skip tracers. Now, skip tracers are being brought in as third parties to actually help do some of this verification on the addresses to be able to hunt these people down, which is cool. So there may be some positive light there. What I will say before I keep rattling off a bunch of these headlines is the overall feeling that I have right now, given the fact that we've now seized 5 vessels over in, between the Caribbean and the Atlantic, over and around Latin America, 1 being Iranian, 1 being Chinese, 3 being Russian. Another Russian one was seized earlier today. It was called the Olena. And given the general nature of what's happening in Argentina, given the nature of what's happening between our discussions with Greenland, given the nature of what's happening in Iran, I have a very, very, very bad feeling that there is something else occurring right now that is not being that's being distracted from, the same way that I would have said that Owen Schroyer talked about the astroturfing of the Minnesota, the fraud. And I don't think it's that there's another domestic story that people need to be paying attention to. I just have a strong feeling with all the power players moving right now and the way that you're seeing South America react. And we're going to get into another story because there's an insane one that's developing right now, which is the beautiful area of Patagonia in Argentina, supposedly was set ablaze by Israeli tourists. And then additionally, there's other reports coming out of Argentina that the Patagonia area, along with it burning, is they were finding Israeli ordnance there. Specifically, I believe it was called the IM. It's like an M26 IM grenade, which is manufactured there in Israel. But again, allegedly, those are reports. We'll get into it. But just to say, I have a very dark feeling that there is something happening on the global scale that is very, very urgent, which is the reason why we're seeing everything else. And I would just simply say all of the other stories, whether it's Greenland or Venezuela or this, to me is beginning to feel closer to actually a symptom or a reaction to something else that's occurring. And so, again, I do think we're pretty much in the dark on what that may actually be. So we have to pick up the context clues from what's happening everywhere else. Well, another thing that was actually set to happen today that people were waiting for and were curious what the answer would be, whether the Supreme Court was supposed to actually adjudicate on Trump's tariffs. Now, to the extent of which they basically said for now they will not. And so for now, the Trump tariffs are not being ruled against by the Supreme Court. They are being left in effect. Many people were expecting that that would be the news that would be filled today, would be if the Supreme Court made any kind of push against the Trump tariff revenue, or they were going to force a refund of some sort. So that's not happening. Another smaller story would be the fact that Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, due to the Epstein file investigation, if they do not show up or they fail to appear in court, they will be held in contempt of Congress. The Grok taking off her clothes bikini trend actually got nipped in the butt by Elon Musk. He shut the feature down for anybody who's a non-paying user. So now if you want to take clothes off, you have to be paying member X premium, which is some form of a solution, I guess, although it shows the intent to keep that image editing and the capability there well and alive. It's just they wanted to tone down how many people had access to it. And there's a funny bit in there too, which we'll get to later on, but Ashley St. Clair was not happy at all. And in short order, she lost her ability to make money on X, and it was just a very funny thing to see. Somebody said Ashley is his least favorite baby mama, and I would have to agree. That's very funny. In other words, in the domestic story, Tucker Carlson actually endorsed James Fishback. Tucker Carlson endorsed James Fishback, not like in a, like in a poster per se, but in the interview that he had with James Fishback. We have a couple clips from it. Tucker, please don't copyright me. I'll try to do my best to kind of cut in and pause it. But James Fishback basically just rips off some of the few kind of key terms, which is like being pro-family, being pro just generally what's good, pro what's positive. And Tucker Carlson said, I love what I'm hearing. Now, you got my vote. And so Tucker Carlson, in a loose sense, did endorse James Fishback. And there's also some more things coming from James Fishback we'll take a look at too. The naval blockade, there's some numbers coming out about the U.S. naval blockade because one thread of the story has been that people have been demanding how much is this naval blockade actually costing the taxpayer? What went into the operation? This was when Marco Rubio was being grilled by a certain reporter, and he didn't have the answer. But per leading report, there are some numbers coming out, and right now it's saying that the overall operation to take out Maduro and the blockade altogether ran us about $700 million, and then as long as it continues on a daily basis, is at about $7 or $9 million, a day. And again, beyond there, we did seize a third Russian tanker, but that's now the fifth vessel that we have seized between the Atlantic and the Caribbean. And again, multiple of these signs pointing to the fact that still it's unknown on some of these vessels whether it was oil that was on them or if it was some other kind of contraband, namely, most than likely, weapons. Now, whether air defense, were they nuclear tipped missiles, what were they? We don't know, and I'm sure we will know coming soon. And this is part of the reason why I do say, and when you see these Russian submarines trailing these things, potentially nuclear capable submarines trailing and shadowing these vessels, that's when you get the feeling that the tension between the United States and Russia may be very close to actually seeing it kinetically. Boots on the ground, I don't think so at this point in time, but the strikes seem to be like we are. There may be close potential, not in the American theater of war, but I would imagine, well, I guess you could still call it the Northern Hemisphere, but I would imagine it may take place closer to Greenland and Denmark. And that's the other thread to the story, another big storyline, big headline, is that Trump, and like I said yesterday, the feeling was it's not a matter of if but when, and Trump said that. He said we can do this the easy way or the hard way, but we are getting Greenland. And I'm paraphrasing there, but he did say easy way or the hard way. NATO has come out and they are surefire going to be trying, well, this might just be rhetoric, but NATO is saying they will defend Greenland from the US, and they're largely just asking French and German troops to be able to do so. Not sure how that's going to work out for them, to be honest with you. Then the maybe one of the saddest stories that I saw through the whole thing was Trump is going to meet with the Venezuela opposition. I believe her name is, I think it's Delcy Rodriguez. I can't remember what her actual name is. And they're going to share the Nobel Prize. It's just one of these sad stories. But again, it had been reported that the reason why Trump had struck and decided to go in and take Maduro and arrest him was because he was dancing and mocking him. And there was also the other report that Trump was, and the reason why he was unwilling to give the transfer of power to the Venezuelan opposition was because she did take the Nobel Peace Prize and because she didn't give it to Trump, which again, I think shows you a bit more of the air of arrogance around Donald Trump, but we've come to expect that. He is an ego-driven person. Then another insane story, because they just keep coming, and this is why I named it Global Chaos, because there's insane things coming out of almost every theater that we have been paying attention to for the last couple of years. And this one was, mind-blowing. So the UAE is now actually cutting funds to the UK for the fear of Islamification for the people who go there. And so they have basically deemed that the United Kingdom is a European state, is a place where their people can be radically Islamified. And so imagine that. Imagine a Middle Eastern state is saying, no, don't go to Europe. You might become more Muslim. You might become radical jihadist. What a statement on the current state of the union there at the United Kingdom. We cannot allow ourselves to come even close to what the UK is. Then beyond there, there's supposedly a Venezuelan security guard who has a viral clip that's been circulating, a little selfie video that he recorded of himself. And he talks and goes into a bit of a detail about the operation that actually took place because he's allegedly, was a security guard for Maduro. And so he details a lot of the technology that America used, and it was pretty interesting to hear. And so we'll take a listen to what he has to say there. In terms of Iran, Iran is the one that's been moving the most. I would say this, I don't know if it would be happening while I'm live, but all signs are indicating that the strike from the United States to Iran is happening at any moment, and it will be happening more than likely tonight, if not in the wee hours of the morning tonight. And that is because, again, like I've mentioned multiple times, it was initially that you can't have enriched uranium. Now, and then, you can't have nuclear weapons. Actually, now you can't have a ballistic missile program. You're making them too fast. Now it's, if you don't treat these protesters that we are pushing, and, we have our guys in there pushing this color revolution, then, we're going to strike you. Well, it was pushed out today. The warning was given out by the Iranian regime, I guess you could say, that the protesters will be shot at if they are protesting in the streets. And so it looks like they are losing the ground heavily. They had already lost one city. The second city appears like it is going to fall. The last report I had seen showed that the the Iranian government officials who were left in the second city, and forgive me, I forget the name of it, starts with an M, are in hiding. And there's a video showing that they are, thousands of them in the street. So to that end, I would imagine that we might see something us striking Iran sooner than later. In addition to that, though, I do want to cover specifically just in the bit that I've seen from it, and I'm not going to put myself as an authoritative figure on this at all, because I can't understand Spanish or Portuguese or what these people in Argentina speak, to be honest with you. But the Patagonia story that's developing in the kind of the background of everything else that's been happening is wild. And so I'll show you what I've seen from that so far, but the footage of the forest burning is very sad and depressing. And in addition to that, one thing I have to say before I get much further into this is there's two things on Erica Kirk. The first was a video that was published by Hustlebitch, literally is the tag of the account. And they pushed out a video that shows there's a resurfaced CIA video that stars Erica Kirk, where she is essentially talking about and giving advice and explaining to national security advisors what to do in the event of an EMP. This is very curious for a lot of reasons for a lot of people. The second thing there is that there's reports now that the reason why Charlie Kirk's parents have been radio silent during this entire tragedy, this situation, if you will, is being reported now that his parents are actually seeking full custody of the children from Erica Kirk. So those are kind of two big things to kind of drop. And again, I've just been seeing the reports of that. I've not seen any big account confirm that, but I've been seeing it all over the timeline. So take that last bit with a grain of salt. Because again, I would like to see, and I do find it curious overall that people haven't been asking more about where is Charlie's, like, actual family, less so just like Erica Kirk and his extension of his own immediate family. Where are his parents coming into the scene? And so if that's the case, and if that's true, this opens it up to a whole different scenario of events now, the way people will kind of, interpret that information. So with that being said, we're going to get started with the Dan Bongino crash out. Sorry for just like but there's a long list of headlines we're going to get through today. I don't know how long it's going to be, but let's get started.
Straight through, offensively accurate, that's the view.
So the first thing I'm going to bring your guys' attention over to is this little bit of beef between Dave Smith and Dan Bongino. Now I'm going to go ahead and put it on screen here for you so you guys can see. This one here is, holy effing crash out. Are you seriously posting about my children at 7 a.m.? Dave Smith says in response to Dan Bongino. Well, what did Dan Bongino say? Well, instead of reading off all of this, just know this has been a continual back and forth between Dan Bongino and Dave Smith, with Dave continually quoting Dan Bongino over and over again, going all the way back to his initial post about the Black Pillar symbiote. And the reason why I want to bring this to your attention is because this is maybe one of the cringiest things here. So this is one of the last responses that we have from Dave. And this was the first thing I saw in the morning. And you can see from Dave at 8 in the morning today. 7 in the morning, Dan Bongino replies to Dave Smith, and he says, your family and kids must be ecstatic that their last name is Smith so that they can blend in with the millions of other Smiths out there and pretend they don't know you. Imagine being dumb enough to post what you just did publicly and then pretend it isn't copium. He says, you're scared, I can smell you from here. Now go get your shine box like I told you. And again, like I've said, I need to know who the 7,000 people are who are liking these posts. I need to know. And the thing is, it saddens me because there's still an element of goy cattle and like sheeple and the people that it will never go away. And this is kind of where the meme comes from of like, maybe we should be ruled by them. But it's just like, it's insane to me. There's a how. What are people paying attention to? Where are they getting their news from? Has the system been that corrupted? Is it that algorithmic that people can be locked into that way of thinking? And and he says, holy effing crash out. And the crazy thing is he continues. Dan Bongino goes again. And he says, tell your family to blink twice if they need my help. I'll get right over there. What level have we reached with Dan Bongino here? Tell your family to blink twice if they need my help. Now we're accusing Dave Smith of being someone so poor of character. Obviously it seems like it's in jest, but it's also like just being denigrating to the character, knowing that Dave Smith isn't, multiple times extended out that he would debate. And I'm not like a huge fan of Dave Smith by any means, but dude, if you're asking me to pick between Dave Smith and Dan Bongino, it's not even close. But again, the ratios are insane. 35,000 likes to whatever that one was. It was like 7,000 likes. And so it's showing you it's obviously clearly leaning in one favor, at least on the internet side of things. But and exactly right, Become Nunya. That's the portion that I'm not understanding. Is like, are we all not paying attention to the same things? Did everyone all not seriously go through the ringer with everybody who got brought into the administration, glazing, belating, fellatiating themselves over the Epstein files and how much they're going to go to bat against the deep state and like how much they're going to clean it up. And then they literally get in there, they become them, they start defending it, they start lying through their teeth, and they come out, and now it's the people are all wrong. And this is what I was saying, it was ultimately the only way they had to come out of it, which is now Dan Bongino comes out and he's like, well, actually, the Trump's completely right. All the Republicans are completely right. It's all the people who are wrong. It's you idiots who just don't get it. Just blows me away. Just absolutely blows me away. I really don't understand it. And there was more continuation from that. I think if you just go straight to Dave Smith, I'll go to one of his last posts just to show you where it was kind of brought to heel. I think the last exchange is this one right here. Dave Smith is going live. He went live earlier to address it. I didn't catch it, didn't see it at all. I'm sorry, Dave. But then he says, Dan, this is genuinely so pathetic. You're the one who is scared here. I've publicly challenged you to debate, and we all know you won't do it because I will end your career. And the crazy thing is Dan already did that. Dan did ruin his career. The best tweet of the day goes to this guy, Dave Benner, nemesis of neocons. Dan Bongino's credibility didn't kill itself. Holy cow, what a banger. What an absolute banger. And Gino is boomer slop, you know, and maybe that's what it is. And there is a portion that, you know, is it that a huge portion of the base that is MAGA and is boomer and is older and probably Gen Xers too that's captured. I mean, I've seen it, right? Like I still see it to this day. And it saddens me because I still have previous partners, previous people who I worked with who are like, still, they're just lying to themselves. They have fully convinced, like, and maybe they're going back to Q. I don't know. But it is just sad to see the way that people will spin themselves into a tale because they simply will not reckon with the question of, am I wrong? Right. And part of the reason is like why I would imagine that even I've got to where I'm at today is because like I continually ask myself that too. Less so anymore today, just because you can just go outside and you're like, okay, this is, we're right, you know. And that's more so, you know, what I was talking to my buddy earlier, right? The book, you know, the book of nature. You know, for a lot of people, it's like nowadays the way people act and the way how evil it is, you don't, a lot of people don't even need to read the Bible. Just go outside and see it and feel it, experience it. You're living in a fallen world. Like, what don't you get about it? How are you not, like, how is it not making sense to you now at this point? Maybe some people are just closed off to that. And I would push it too, you know, I said this earlier and it's a little bit of a sidebar, but to that effect as well with like on the Christian ends of the spirituality, the good versus evil. On an individual basis, we also all need to make sure that we are knowing when it's time to dust our feet. You know, when you've tried to explain it and pull and inject the message of Jesus Christ to somebody who is unwilling to hear it, obviously try and try again. But when it comes recognized to the point that they're just not going to hear it from you, you just got to dust your feet and move on. And I think as a collective, as a nation, that's just how we got to look at the whole left, the way that the progressive left is. It's clear the debate is over. Charlie Kirk, the tragedy of Charlie Kirk is the physical representation of that. And so we as the American people got to dust our feet and say, okay, like since we're the only adults in the room, this all has got to go. And the reason why I say that too is because think about it right now. Think about the fact that this event in Minnesota has now massively galvanized the left wing. They're out there. We have multiple we're going to go through. But there's a lot of these clips coming out where they're saying like, there's no way they're going to come back unless they're armed. These people, they need to get demasked. We need to like start doing these things. And the sad portion is like, it's very clear that if we don't have a strong executive response, i.e. from ICE, just packing the rest of these people up. I mean, like strong, like clamp down is like, there's not even a chance for you to even argue anymore. It is like, this is over and we're done with it. That's got to be the executive arm slamming itself down. Because if we don't, think about where we're going to be at with this. If we don't get a massive deportation, but the left is left carrying that energy and momentum through the next couple of years from the same way they did with George Floyd, that puts us again in the worst spot possible and being back to being, you know, beautiful losers. Thank you for the super chat. How Nike, he says, Christ is king, pray for the return of the unfaithful. Amen. And I appreciate the super chat very much, man. And, you know, and obviously, isn't this saying like give up on people like just because you have an assumption of them or anything? But as a nation sense, I think collectively we can all agree and identify and say like there are certain people here that have been here for a hot minute who have pushed these things, who are clearly showing themselves they are entirely disagreeable. They will not listen to reason or logic. And the just answer to that as a society is, okay, well, we will either enforce the law or we will remove you from power because we can't sustain ourselves with you pushing these things that are directly affronts to what is good and what would actually benefit Americans and the interests of Americans. But more so on Dan Bongino here, this is from Jordan Crowder, and I did kind of have a thought like this similarly too. But it's just the basic idea that was Dan Bongino, you know, sent back down to the private sector as like a bit of a PR tactic. I'm less inclined to believe it, to be honest, when you look at the full body of work on it, especially with the amount of times that he was, you know, in these screaming matches with 9K. Okay, how 9K? Okay, my bad, brother. Especially when you see all these, you know, the reports of the multiple times that he argued with Susie Wiles. I'm less inclined to believe that it was a planned thing to push him out, because that was overall just the reporting on Dan Bongino having the issues gave ammunition to people going like, oh wow, there really is something going on and something wrong with the Trump administration. So I'm really just less inclined to believe that. However, it's very obvious and clear that he has no intention at all of doing anything beyond defending like a massive chud anything the Trump administration has done. And so I think for most people, they have their answer. Dan Bongino was not who he said he was. He is not a warrior. Quote. Right? Quote. Like, just, oh man, it's sad. And again, and this is what I would say too, like, you know, there's only so far you can do this when you look like, you know, you look like this screaming, raging Puerto Rican Italian dude. Like, at a certain point, man, you're just being a big goofball. You're a big joke. You need to pack it up and walk away, because your style of politics is dead. That stuff's dead in the water. No more of this, you know, national conservatism and, you know, Yoram Hazony just basically kind of deciding what falls under that, and, you know, being essentially led by a Jew. It's like, we're so done with that. Entirely just so sick of having anything that's pushed that's removed from the values of God and Christianity. So done with that, dude. So done with everyone pretending and missing all of these different elements of like what actually matters to the American people. And like I said a few streams ago, like, we're not going back in the box. I'm sorry. There's no way we will get put back in the box, especially not now. On to what was probably going to be the feature story of today, though, is the body cam footage that was released. And so this is kind of probably the most viral story of today, and that is going to be the fact that the body cam footage, and I think it was from Alpha Response. It was a different pundit or group that I saw was given the footage at the initial or the onset, but I put it on screen for everybody. I have the one from Nick Sortor, and the reason why I grabbed the one from Nick Sortor was to just show you an exchange in the comments that you see here from Asmongold as well. But this was the video that was released. It's about a 47-second video, and we'll watch it in full, especially for those who have not seen it already. Yeah, but definitely make sure you smash the like button if you have not already. It helps the channel tremendously. But here it is. Oh, forgive me. Let me make sure the sound's up here too. I apologize. I want to make sure the sound levels are okay, because I listened back a little bit to the yesterday's stream, and it sounded like it was very, very like loud, and now it's very quiet. So I apologize.
Change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fucking veteran. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the fucking
car. Marcus.
Get out of the car.
Whoa! And the response from many, including Nick Fuentes and many others, was 100% justified. Now that we see that, 100% justified. And so underneath this, though, it's to show you this exchange here between Asmongold and Nick Sortor. Asmongold responds to it. He says, this really goes to show how important body cams are. Regardless of what your political affiliation is, they are a force for both good and also accountability. Any law enforcement official should be required to have one. It protects all parties. And I agree. I definitely agree on the body cam element, to be honest with you. Too many, especially in a zero trust society, I think it only behooves us to have more cameras everywhere, to have less rooms for, you know, he said, she said. Nick Sortor responds and he says, I totally agree. Body cam should be mandatory for all law enforcement agencies. In this case, the agent is practically fully exonerated by having a recording from his point of view. It is a good thing. Glad he had it on. Glad he wasn't doing the typical Chicago routine where they turn it off before they beat the crap out of you in an alleyway. However, this is good, and I do think it's a good direction. And I do think this should be the standard moving forward. I know in some states it already is. You know, they have the 24/7 body cams. However, some states differ from that, and they do allow them to turn it off in different situations. And yeah, many people have said such, right? Body cams are the worst thing that happened to minorities, and we've gotten some insane photos from them. I think most people can remember the one who like came out of an apartment with with a machete or a knife or something to that effect, and just like the still shot you get of the officer kind of like as he's pulling his gun out of the holster, just like the insanity and the craziness that you can just see on her face, like, whoa, no way. So the one thing that I wanted to point out with this video particularly, though, while everybody's here, if you've not noticed this already, or if nobody's pointed out so far, this is the first thing. First thing I wanted to check was the Missouri plate element, because many people had reported that. So if you see here, Probably clear of a frame as I can give you, but it does say it is Missouri. You can probably go right here. This car is registered with Missouri plates. So that report that initially came out that it was registered, that made people think that she came from out of state. The license plate is registered to Missouri. But the question is like, where did she come from? I think that will need some more investigation to determine the events that occurred leading up to that. More information is coming out about what school she was giving her, or what the one child that she had custody left to, the son. So more reports are coming out about where she actually was in Minneapolis, what her involvement was. And I'm sure we'll need a couple more days to actually really, with a fine comb, go through those to figure out and determine a very specific set of events. And that's very unfortunate. Lord of the Ree, another super chat here. Thank you very much for that, brother. Lord of the Ree says that 2 killed and 6 others were injured in shooting at a Salt Lake church parking lot 2 days ago, and no one is talking about it. I did see that, and it was very unfortunate. It happened at the Church of Latter-day Saints in Salt Lake City. When I'd first seen it, I initially thought, I was like, is that the Church of Latter-day Saints? I'm unsure. It very well might be. But I did see that 8 people were shot at, and it's very unfortunate. We do need to pray for those individuals. It's, they may be, LDS in a different sect than us, doesn't matter. They need to pray for them, especially when tragedies occur like that. And to make it even worse, a funeral was happening. So the shooting occurred during a funeral, and it killed 2 more people. And so just to show you that good and evil are very real things, and the left is only that of which on the opposite side of good. There is no redeeming element from the left at all. And these things need to be treated accordingly, less so left and right. It needs to be treated more so in the framing, like I said again previously. It needs to be good versus evil. And obviously that's people feel uncomfortable moving to that, but at a certain point I would need to see evidence. Someone needs to show me what is a redeeming element. What is the left pushing that's not dripped in satanic, just disgust? Point to it. Beyond that, it's like we can't tolerate this in this nation. It should have been cleaned up a long time ago. We need Daddy Trump to come in and handle it down. And whether it's Daddy Trump or somebody, Hitler, if you can hear me, regardless, it's got to be done. We can't handle this anymore. The second thing is Carl Higbie. This is one of the brothers who's been pushing pretty hard from Newsmax as well. He's kind of been picking up where Matt Gaetz left off, pushing hard against Israel and American interest. Although I would still need to see a bit more from Carl Higbie before I had a strong assessment of him. He also thought so too. He pushed out again, 100% justified as well. And the second element, though, to this that I wanted to highlight here, and again, thank you very much for the super chat again, Lord of the Ree. He says, deceased woman's wife burned kids with cigarettes. That is... I thought I had seen something about that. I really did. And that is just very disgusting. And I'm sure we'll see some more reports. I did see that the toxicology report came out of Renee Nicole Good. Renee Good, I probably just a better way to say it. Mrs. Good. And she had at least like 8 or 9 different substances in her. I believe one of them was THC. So she was on, whether it was like, a vape pen or something. I did see that, but it was like something around like 7 or 8 substances. If I can remember, I'll find that later on down the line. But it's just very, very just overall situation, again, very unfortunate for the kids on the back end. But the second thing I wanted to bring your attention to was actually one of these other angles of the story. And so what you'll see here, I'm going to take it right before, where are we at? It's like right there. Now, I don't know how good you guys are going to be able to see it depending on what platform you're on, but this one right here, what you can tell is that she's looking directly at the officer that's standing in front of her vehicle. And so one of the through lines that have been in this angle that as the story's been getting covered was, well, there's a potential, or one of the excuses people have been giving is that she might have been focused on one of the other officers, seeing how, or her partner who's on this side of the vehicle, there was another officer on the driver's side of the vehicle, and then there's an officer in front of her. And I do believe there's an officer behind the vehicle as well too. And some people had put out before we got the body cam footage that there is a reality in which maybe she wasn't paying attention at all. This, I think, disproves that. I think it shows she very well was aware there was a man standing right in front of her. She is looking directly ahead of her. And then one of the final things is going to need audio for it, but it's right here. And hopefully I have the right one. There might be another one that has better quality audio on it. But what you're going to hear from the partner is she actually gives a command to the woman driving, to Renee. And that command is essentially drive, drive, drive. Here it is.
Car. Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car. Whoa!
You hear that? Drive, baby, drive, drive. One more time.
Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car. Whoa!
So she gave the command. She gave the command, and I'm glad that I stuck it on this frame too, because this is like the last frame I was going to bring into your attention as well, was the fact that he was hit so abruptly that the camera literally faces up. Right? So this is the body cam footage coming. He gets hit, and because the car is hitting it, it's pushing all the stuff up. I can only imagine it caused his clothes to like ruffle, and it pinched it, and the body cam's now directly looking up at him. So like this idea that he wasn't hit, I mean, it's over. This body cam footage, like 100%, like all the way around, is like disproved a lot of things, and thank God that he had it turned on for him, to be honest. Another thing that might have been a better frame here, because EndWokeness also pointed out the fact that she was staring straight ahead. This photo might look a bit better. Right here. Yeah, it seems to be the exact same frame that I stopped it on. She's looking directly ahead at her, at the officer, at him, I should say. I would imagine the fact that the wife gave the calls too, and seeing what we might find out about that, like this was they planned this whole thing out. The wife may also get charges too. Wife, partner, I don't know if they're actually married or not, and even if they were, we shouldn't honor it. Now, in terms of like directly on the ground, what is happening now, we have even more statements from Mayor Frey, and Mayor Frey is continuing this push of downplaying. So he's downplaying the entire event, and he downplays what happened to the officer, so much so that he says it's no different than what happened to him, as if he would have, hit the fridge door with his hip. No joke. Here's the clip.
What you put it,
Forgive me.
it's pretty grim. What you just said, and I think, to repeat for everybody, Donald Trump said that Renee ran the ICE agent over. Don't take my word for it. Don't take their word for it. Watch the video from every single angle. I mean, the ICE agent walked away with a hip injury that he might as well have gotten from closing a refrigerator door with his hips. He was not injured. I've seen worse injuries from doing that. And so give me a break. No, he was not ran over. He walked out of there with a hop in his step.
He walked out of there with a hop in his step. He was gleeful of what he did. He was happy. He was excited. It gave him energy. It vitalized him. Like, what the hell are we doing? Why he has not been arrested yet at this point? Like, this is what I mean. It's like, if we're waiting for like them to verbatim say like, and I'm now declaring war, give me a break, dude. Go in there and arrest these people. We know they're protecting fraud. We know the element is now going now we're getting reports that the fraud is being reported. It could be broader than 50 billion when it was initially closer to like 10, then it was 12, then 18, now 50. Arrest these people. None of these people are fit to lead. We know that. I know that. You know that. They're not serving Americans' interests. They're and quite literally, when you look at it and you gather all of them together between people in Philly and Seattle, some of the statements from people in California and otherwhere, like, and I think Wisconsin mayor came out and said the stupidest shit I ever heard the other day too. Forgive me, shouldn't curse. Arrest these people. Put them behind bars. Ask questions later. Like we're at the point now where it's like, are we seriously expecting everybody to just go along and that our society will be able to handle another 4 or 5 years of a racially charged, politically charged event where everybody knows what happened was, I mean, like, we can't. And especially when you're seeing the left behave the way they are, you have got to come in. You have got to lay the law down. You have to let it known for these people that one more word pushing this inflammatory insurrection, you're going to be thrown in prison, and we're going to throw the key. We're going to chuck the key into the Atlantic Ocean. Stop abusing your power. Stop violating Americans, and stop giving taxpayer dollars to people who don't deserve it, to foreigners, and protecting and abetting criminal aliens and everything else that they're helping. Like, it's got to go. And what perfect opportunity then right now, while all these officials are coming out and basically saying, hinting at, or insinuating that they're in a war with the federal government. Come on. Let's take the next step here. And I just think it's insane that we're even sitting here waiting around for anything. Lord Lorith, another super chat. Thank you very much, brother, for the $10 super chat. He says, let me get this straight. We can grab Maduro in the middle of the night in a foreign country with 0 casualties, but our government is simultaneously incapable of arresting politicians promoting this. And that's what I was saying. That, you know, this is the paradigm that matters, which is when people are looking at the actions being taken over in Venezuela and the level of the complexity of these operations, willing to put months of planning behind it. Are we? Where's the task force to arrest all these politicians? And the same thing is too, is it's like, this would be, I would imagine, this is probably a lot more on the FBI doorstep. So this actually is a bit more like the Cash Patel area. But remember, we didn't even get the J6 committee, right? You guys remember the statute of limitations has passed now. Harmeet Dillon telling everybody, calm down. We got to respect the statute of limitations. None of those people are going to see justice for what they did. So I am less inclined to believe. It seems that we are much more willing to put resources and effort into the geopolitical and into the international than we are domestically. And that's just been America's MO for the last like 20, 30 years. I don't get it. I'm positively, I'm tickled at the idea that it seems like the immigration enforcement, wing is getting ramped up. All the reports are speaking to that. But the arrests have to come in. It's got to be public. It's got to be Tim Walz getting perp walked in front of the entire nation. And then we go, never again. Never again will you idiot liberal come in here and will you shit upon the Constitution with your secular non-Christian values while you glaze over Somalians and Indians at the cost of Americans just living their lives. And having access to things that they need, like SNAP benefits or Medicaid, or when families are making well below $3,000 a month and they have 3 children and they're being passed over for people who just got here 2 months ago, who have no care in the world for this country and who will only seek to exploit it. These people have got to be arrested en masse. I don't care what law it's broken at this point. There are no laws in this country. Like, this country has become a cesspit of people who will cheat, lie, and steal. It is a time that an executive takes the ring and he goes, you know what? I'm going to put the ring on, not because I want to, but because I must. And you people are going back in the crystal. We are going to revitalize this nation, and we're going to do it domestically from the ground up, and you will not ever be allowed to hold power again. I don't care if we have to bring in McCarthyism laws again. I don't care if we have to ban communism. I don't care what happens anymore. These people have to, because we can't be left holding the bag of an angry, momentum-filled, charged left wing, and we're also not deporting these people. Because I tell you what I don't want to have in my country is a bunch of Somalians thinking they have a free pass to come kill more white people because of one stupid incident that happened in Minnesota that we were unwilling to move upon because God forbid someone be called racist. And this isn't me being angry just in general. It's just my general frustration with the entire situation that I'm just so sick of seeing people who put in hours, day in and day out, in the hopes that the people that they give money to, they donate to, they support to, they listen to, will one day, for 1 second, be willing to go, you know what, maybe I will do something for the American person today. Instead of giving a shit what the New York Times and all these other stupid articles have to say, God willing, please do the right thing. That's all I'm asking. Okay, ran over. Beyond there, though, we have some of these portions from this radicalism that's coming in. And it's very telling, and I think this is some of the stuff that people need to see. They need to absorb. And so I gathered a few of these just so we can kind of go through them, absorb them, see what's being said, feel the energy, feel the hatred towards you. Like, not so you can be retributive, not so you can go, you know what, and I'm gonna an eye for an eye and fire meets fire. But so you can be aware and so you can know it in your soul. So you can be more convicted when you're doing what you're doing to go, you know what, I am doing the right thing. I am honoring God. I am pursuing Christian values. Because that's what's also lacking, is it seems like people are kind of timid and they're hesitant. Well, part of that is because for a lot of them, they lack purpose. Well, when you have purpose, a lot of people sometimes even have purpose, but they don't have conviction. We need conviction. You need to know, feel it, believe it, passionate about it. All of it. And you also need to be intellectually equipped too. And that goes for a lot of different ends on there too, especially when someone who wants to push comes to shove. Somebody goes, you're being inundated with propaganda. You need to have a response to that. You need to be able to break open the box of these people and go, no, you're wrong, and here's why. Not scream at them, but go, this is why you're wrong, da-da-da-da-da. Being equipped enough to go, I get why you would think that, and I understand the algorithm aspect, but here's some reasons of why I would disagree with you on these ends, and why I don't think it's being inundated. Do you want to look at the FBI crime statistics? Would you like to look at the 2024 data on COVID? Would you like to have those at the ready? And that's what it means when people are, when Nick is asking for men to be polymaths, to be greater than, to pursue greater ends. It's on those ends. It's on being equipped spiritually, mentally, emotionally, being ascending, being better, not just hoping and wishing for it, but actually being the man that you want to see, not emulating somebody, but actually being that. Benny D, thank you again for the super chat. He says, Benny D 6257, he says, it's hard to be worried about the left when the right, including Trump, allows pedos to walk free. Both sides do not care about everyday Americans, the states who need to amend the Constitution. Entirely agreed. And there's nuance in this, but the Constitution is a failed document, I think, for a multitude of reasons, and that's not to say it was a bad document at all. I do think it's just to say that there is, no matter what document it is outside of the Bible, outside of the Bible, I do think a lot of these kind of charters and these, because they are so capped by the inability to predict the future, they're ultimately always going to be on a time limit. And even saying that, like, if we were to rebuild a new constitution tomorrow, I would still say in 250 years it will have failed those people too, because we don't know what to expect, what predictions will come, what systems will seek to subvert, and how they would do so. I do get your point that it's hard to be concerned about the left in general, or to prioritize that in general. And whether you prioritize it or not, I think the idea needs to be like, you can't forget that these people hate you. You can't forget that they do exist, and they clearly will. They will arm themselves and do things violently, as they always do time and time again. But it is to say, more so, whether you prioritize it or not, the answer to the left must be strong executive action, and never again. Let's copy their mantra. Let's copy not theirs, but partly theirs. Never again. Never again will a liberal ever hold office ever again. No progressive, no nothing. Maybe liberals can, but not progressives. Ban communism. Dude, at this point, it's like all bets are off. And obviously I'm a Christian nationalist. Of course I feel that way. And let me get this out. Let me boost this out of the way. Forgive me. Okay. Forgive me. I'm moving on to the next one here. This is the one that I wanted to bring to. This is the leftist white woman. This was starting to go viral after I had streamed yesterday. Now I won't play the video. You don't really need to. But if you've not seen this video, this woman essentially is saying how she's conflicted, quote, in there from AF Post. She feels kind of wrong for paying her respects to Renee because she is a, quote, white woman who is, quote, privileged, adding that, quote, white tears are not helpful. And many people just took this and said, look, you can be a martyr for their cause. You can be a martyr for their cause, and they will still treat you like subhuman. They will still feel icky. They're like, man, she died. To them, it's like she died in this tragic way and was like fighting for the resistance against the evil Nazi regime. And even then, they're like, but her skin color. But shouldn't I hate her for her skin color? It's like, holy crap. I mean, and this is what I mean. Like, this ideology isn't rooted in anything reasonable or should be accepted at all. I mean, like, it is just purely in itself, in its purest form, it is just evil. It is predicated upon hatred of white people. That is like one of the base elements and the foundations of it. And what a just like a just sad and just pathetic just statement. Crazy that they even cut it on video. But to further this point, the reason why I just brought this up and won't play this is I will play this one because furthermore, there was a communist New York City rally that was happening, and there's a radical who's screaming and they're doing these chants. So at first they're screaming about Kristi Noem, but then it moves into, quote, I'm not even joking you, this is a quote from this guy, we'll watch this video. He makes a statement, quote, she, in reference to Renee Cole Goodman, she has achieved the highest honor a white person can achieve. Race traitor. then they cheered. That is what these people fucking think. And forgive me for the cursing, but it is like, we know what it is. I'm just tired of people playing games about it anymore. Like, we know who these people are. We know what they want. Like, I'm sorry. I'm taking my own side. Get these people the fuck out. Deport them too. I don't care where they go. Send them to Russia, dude. Ask them what their favorite country is since they hate America so bad. Cool. You hate America so bad? What's your favorite country? We'll send you there immediately, right away. You want to go to China? You want to go to Venezuela and see how the people are doing? Do you want to go to Chad? Do you want to go to Nigeria? How about South Africa? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? Since you hate it so badly here, we'll take you and your entire family and we'll send you to whatever country you want on the one condition that you never come back. But here's this. Here's this communist radical leading this chant here in New York City. It's just insane. And at first, it is very, very, very racy language at the beginning towards Kristi Noem. I will say that. But around the 2-minute mark, you will hear him switch tones and start talking about Renee. Insane, man. It's insane. So he's shouting verbatim, and again, YouTube, I am documenting that this came from a radical communist in New York City, and he said, quote, and they're chanting, quote, Kristi Noem will hang. That is the chant that's happening in New York City, in Zoran Mamdani territory, and again, it's showing you nationally, it's spreading. It's coming all across the board. Now I'm going to cut forward a bit, because that's basically all they say for a hot minute. To about here, it's going to get into a speech. It's about the 2-minute mark. You will see he will make that comment that I referenced earlier.
Ready? But some of us are pissed off, aren't we? We got someone from the hands-off crowd over here. I dedicate that one to Renee Good. When I say Renee Nicole Good, you say presente. Renee Nicole Good. Presente. Renee Nicole Good. Presente. We are going to say that. If I may, let us not say her name. Because say her name is for members of marginalized communities whose deaths are forgotten.
Thank you. Fucking hell.
Nobody forgetting Renee Good. She has achieved the highest honor a white person can achieve. Race traitor. She was not just an
You are a race. You have achieved the highest honor. Race traitor. That is what they feel and think. And obviously, everybody here probably knew that for the most part. Thank you again for another super chat from Benny D. 6257. He says, John Adams, this is a quotation from John Adams. He says, our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. Quote, and the Constitution didn't fail us, we failed it. And I would agree with that on both ends, to be honest. Like, I could be on either side of that. The point being is the tried and true. If the Constitution brought you here, what good was the Constitution? And you could also vice inversely, and I would probably put more blame on the men who carried us here too, on that end as well. It's like they didn't uphold it either. They clearly didn't protect what they needed to protect either. And we see that categorically. We see that from the capitalist systems, with the oligarchy that's occurring with the monopoly. We see that with women in general. That might be the biggest area you see it. You see it with the subversion of churches. Like, where are the good men? Where are the good men who are going to stand up and say, wait a minute, my religion isn't worshiping Jews in the state of Israel? Where were those guys? They just disappeared for 50 straight years, and all of a sudden we woke up in 2023. It just, I don't know, man. Sometimes I struggle to understand it, to be honest. And there's a portion of this too. I know some people would have liked to see that, and you know, we'll see what happens with that, to be honest. But again, you need to amend anything, you need a supermajority, you need it to be ratified. The process is extremely intense, and you know, we would need to get a very strong social recurrence if you want to do it through the normal set of ways. I don't think it's going to be able to happen through the normal set of ways and the normal processes. We will have to find a way to go over and circumvent it. You just have to make the recognition too. It's like if you know that 7 of 10 judges that are appointed in the circuit court are all DEI execs, they're all Steins and Bergs, and they all worship at the altar of anti-white communist Marxism, additionally to perhaps every other kind of like other goal they may have, foreign interest related. You can't sit there and go, well, now I'm gonna let these guys decide. Now I'm gonna let these guys decide the fate of my Christian American country. Can't. I mean, you just can't. I mean, like, why would you do that? That's just dumb on its face. You have to be able to recognize these things and have the awareness of it too. And part of it is it becomes very murky territory because you get close to talking about, seceding or any kind of secession in any way, no matter what form it may take, whether it's a state from the union or it's whether one other dividend or divestiture, from the executive branch from how they're supposed to do things. Might makes right. Might makes right, right? This is the whole kind of, you just got to strong arm it. That's why people have been begging for a strong executive. It's where you get the monarchists coming in, people begging for a king. Please just collapse this system and give it to one guy. And let's just hope the one guy makes choices that we can agree with. Because people are just fed up. They're fed up with the way that the system works. And I cannot blame them. And they are all sick in the head. I mean, that's part of it. We can recognize that a good portion of them are struggling with and are dealing with some level of mental illness, or they're just outright just evil or insane, schizophrenic, paranoid. They need to go to a mental asylum. Either way, dude, these people, you got to go. Whether you want to go to the nut house or you want to go to Puerto Rico, you got to pick, right? You got to go. And then you go beyond there. Some of these reactions here coming out. You have maybe the most natural reaction to the entire event came from this black dude I saw, which is quote, worried about the wrong shit. So this is showing you it's not all obviously all across the board people reacting in the same way. This one was, again, how I would imagine most normal people actually engage with what they saw on camera. So here it is.
Everybody want to talk about whether or not the ICE agent should have shot the lady. I'm trying to figure out why she was there in the first place. You got a son, you got a family. You out here defending Pablo and Julio like they give a damn about you. Go home and protect your son. Can't do that now, it's too late. Worried about the wrong shit. And it's the problem. When you start dating people, you need to find out what their politics are. What side of the fence are they on? Because I'm starting to realize all the crazies are a bunch of liberals. They're the crazy ones. What woman of yours is going to be out on the front lines battling for fucking Carlos? Carlos is in here illegally. He need to go back to his country. Worry about the wrong shit. Got yourself killed. Good job.
I'm seeing why Margaret Moto was hidden the other day. Listen, if you don't believe in good and evil, I mean, we're not aligned at all. I'm sorry, I don't know what else to tell you beyond that. That whole idea of we need to you're indoctrinated. Who gives a shit if the zombie fighting me was injected with the disease or he was bitten? It's the zombie's effing biting me and coming after my children. It's we're putting it down. I don't know how else to say that, right? I don't give a shit about their pro-capitalism, pro anything at all. These people are evil. They are brainwashed. They're indoctrinated. It doesn't, at a certain point, it doesn't matter. We have to be pragmatic. This whole living in this hypothetical, I can't believe that we're still on these things. The answer's in front of you. These people they're showing to you, they are incapable of even the most base level self-control. They're putting themselves in situations that are getting people killed, themselves included. Now we have a son who's unfortunately being sent to grandparents whose life is forever destroyed. No. How about you say Christ is Lord and you you get an understanding. How about that? How about you say Christ is Lord? But I thought this take from this guy was probably maybe the most natural and kind of honest take from somebody, which is what were you doing there? What were you doing there at all? This makes no sense why you're there. And but this is also an extension of the fact of, she did have custody trouble with the 2 children, or 2 older kids. The youngest one, as far as I understand, is reported that he's 6 years old. And he was being sent to a charter school where where they train people to be anti-ICE, where they have all these like tells and signs, and this was just what blew me away. So a lady did a good, short 2-minute video, but I will go to the Jake GTV thing after this. Their things are hilarious, dude. I love them. I'll react to that after this, just a second. But this lady going to explain a little bit about what was going on in this charter school and where she was taking them.
So I was trying to find a timeline of the radicalization of Renee Nicole Good, and did you guys know that she had enrolled her kid in a charter school in Minneapolis that was training parents to fight ICE? Because she absolutely did. The New York Post has an article out where they dug into this Southside family charter school a little bit. Apparently this school is where Renee Good, who was fairly new to Minneapolis, was introduced to ICE protesting in the first place. Oddly enough, this school sounds way worse than a Leering Center. It was opened in 1972 to have an unabashed focus on social justice education. No, really, this is straight from their website. We integrate social justice into every grade level, telling the stories of the people, not the people in power, and helping students understand history and their role in making the world a better place. A gym teacher who retired last month said that current events like George Floyd were a regular part of the curriculum. This is for little kids. So the article goes on to say that it was through her involvement with the community at Southside Family Charter School that Renee Good got involved with ICE Watch, a group dedicated to disrupting ICE. Another mom at the school identified as Lisa, saying Renee Good was trained against these ICE agents, what to do, what not to do. It's very thorough training. And this ICE Watch group apparently had become a lot more organized and a lot more radical, making connections with other extremely radical groups there in the Twin Cities. And this was a school for her 6-year-old. So she was further radicalized at a school for her 6-year-old in a city that she had just moved to. And she was already pretty radical. She and her partner fled Kansas City to Canada after the election of Donald Trump in 2024, and then moved back down to Minneapolis, where all of this ended up occurring. So this is completely insane, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. And it seems like Nick Shirley just found the tip of the iceberg there in Minneapolis, because in addition to a bunch of fraudulent fake Somali daycares, there's also a charter school training up moms to fight federal agents. They can try anything they want to try and distract us from this nest of radicals up in Minneapolis, but I want some hearings.
It's wild to me. That's just like, it's gotten so deep, and Marcus Moto does make good points, which is the fact that like these things have been in place for a long time. This was the long march to the institutions. And paired with a bunch of different things, right? Some of the left wings, turned neocons. Some of them remained left wing. There's a lot of different elements. Some of these factions that have been, playing on the strings at the heart of the direction of America and the way it has progressed. But what are we doing? I don't even understand how a charter school can like put curriculum out there that like directly is telling and giving instructions of like how to be insubordinate to law enforcement. Like that just to me feels illegal. But alas, we're only finding out about it in the aftermath of this. And it's like, I'm sure there's been a lot of people who knew and didn't say anything, or if they tried, no one cared. Just the state of it is just, it's abysmal. And what is this mom doing? Like, what priority is that? Like, why? And what, you want your 6-year-old son? Now look at that. You know what your lifestyle, you doing this got you? An early death. And that's what you want your 6-year-old son to do? You're pushing your 6-year-old son to have a similar lifestyle as you, to write poems about how they put the Bible in acid and put it in a trash bag and hit walls with it. You want to have them have a broken life where they don't even have custody of their own kids. They got to flee to Canada because they're so psychologically just twisted about the news they see. Yeah. 19th Amendment, abolish it. Abolish it, throw it away, and install the, what amendment would we be at? Like on 30 something, I think now. Whatever the newest amendment is, dude, install it so that the 19th Amendment can never be revisited. The 19th Amendment is forever banned from this country. We have reached the pinnacle of the 19th Amendment, actually. Not to say all men are capable of leadership, and right now, like, obviously, but it is to say, like, it's a clear and obvious contradiction to God's law, to the natural order of everything that God has designed to push for that. And we're seeing the results of it. It's just sad. It's just sad. She needed leadership. And I see it all the time too. It's like, these women are just unhinged until, you get a guy who's capable of, for one, being intellectually capable, but also being charismatic enough to actually, rein it back in and be like, can we come back to reality? Knock the feminism out of her, if you will. It's a tagline I've heard many times and times again. It's just pathetic. But to go to Nick's take on this, and there's two elements I would like to cover on this in particularly as it pertains to Renee Nicole Good. I want to cover what Nick's statement was. He had a couple big paragraphs he pushed in Telegram, but also I'm going to go to Asuka Groyper's take on this because there's been another angle in this story that's been propagated by a lot of the people who share the same space in the anti-Israel crowd. And that would be people like Adam, Seven Seas, Jake Shields, and a few others that are now pushing this narrative that nobody hates white women more than white men. And they're attacking white people for not having the same in-group preference as every other group and race, which is to say they will defend them on the lines of color no matter how bad, vile, or evil that person may have done or committed. And so I have a few different schools of thought on that, which we'll get to. But like I'd said not too long ago with Clavicular, he's not committing crimes. Now, not to say like I don't agree with everything he's doing, but I would never put myself in a position where I'm going to even on the slightest sense, try to nitpick anything with Clavs. It's like, this is a Wang half. Let the Wang half run free, dude. Now, if the Wang half starts doing insane things and he starts doing like crime, then it comes to a different point. But there is a line. It was more so to make the point of we do need to have stronger kind of in-group preference biases for ourselves. We need to be a bit more aware of the fact that there is a very strong and overarching anti-white element to this. There is a replacement occurring. There is a white genocide occurring. And so when you think about these things, that does need to be something that you need to keep in mind when you think about, to what end am I actually attacking this person and what purpose does it serve? Or what does it serve to attack this person? Is there a thing I'm trying to get them to, or am I just trying to generally, in disdain, push this person down? I think there needs to be some different framing elements that need to be considered when you're thinking about that. But here's what Nick said about the overall situation. Actually insane that it's an hour and 15 minutes and I am 2 topics in. But this is from Nicholas J. Fuentes. And he says, honestly, if you have any sympathy for that bitch, you're not going to make it. Tucker's newsletter says, quote, I don't care what side you're on, a woman was shot in the face and that's a tragedy. No, it really isn't at all. When Charlie Kirk was shot and killed, these dirtbags publicly celebrated. When Trump was shot in the face, they publicly celebrated. These far-left activists are evil garbage, they want you dead, and they are actively working to destroy our country. There is no moral equivalence, and to say these, forgive me, and to say this is partisanship obfuscates the truth. These people want your kids to have their genitals cut off, they want criminals loose in the country, they want open borders. This woman wasn't shot in a traffic stop, she was there with her wife to harass and impede federal immigration enforcement. You can see the look in her and her girlfriend's eyes. These are typical liberal bitches who have never faced any accountability. They are so bold because they are used to getting their way in this society. That has to end. If they miscalculate, then good riddance. And he continues, it is probably in bad taste to celebrate technically, but to be pouring out sympathy for this woman shows you are lost in the sauce. We are in a war for the country. Get an effing grip. Our country is being invaded. Trump was elected to kick them out, and some pumpkin-headed bitch is using her car, a lethal weapon, to exercise a veto over federal immigration law, the popular mandate, and the president. She was told to leave the car and tried to speed away, hitting an ICE officer in the process. This isn't a game, actually. She was in the wrong and she paid with her life. Too bad. That is actually what is going to happen when the decent people of the country lay down the law. At some point, the rubber meets the road. In Minnesota, it was uncovered that these foreigners who shouldn't even be here are scamming the taxpayer out of millions of dollars. It is just and unreasonable to get these people out of our country. This idiot bitch went out to jump in front of the police out of sympathy for the foreigners. There is no moral equivalency here. So, I largely agree with everything there. Actually, I would say I don't think there's anything I disagree with at all there. On both, part 1 and part 2. And I think specifically, when you hone in on this third paragraph here, that is actually what is going to happen when the decent people of the country lay down the law. At some point, the rubber meets the road. And that is always what my fear has been from the right wing. And I said it 2 years ago, and it was about mass deportations. I feared that the people alongside me that called themselves conservatives would immediately start clutching their pearls and cucking up when they would start to see that when immigration enforcement have to actually drag people out of their homes and send them back, it's not going to look pretty. And I did fear people would respond going, oh no, but not like this. I want mass deportations, but not like this. People are so removed from the reality of what happens in life. And I'm continually reminded by that. The more that I was surrounded by urbanites, the longer I lived in the city. And I just don't get it. I don't get how people can't walk themselves through primary, secondary, and tertiary level thinking and go, well, of course, this is going to happen, and there are going to be these kinds of incidents all around. And imagine if the mass deportation effort was happening at an extreme, national level instead of just occurring like in these kind of spot levels. There would have already been like 4 or 5 different of these, tragic incidents. And I do say it's tragic, unfortunately, because of the sun. And obviously you don't want anybody to die, period. But to be dismayed is like, what did you expect? And I do think that's the best framing of it too, which is like, it wasn't just like she was at a traffic stop and the cop, she was going 2 miles over the speed limit. It was like, they knew what they were doing. They set it up. They had the camera ready. They wanted to get a moment. They knew what they were doing. They lose all benefit of the doubt. And then now we have people on our side saying, oh no, oh God, no, I wanted you to enforce the law, but like not like this. I'm not even trying to be offensive. You thought it would be pretty? I think we're all going to be like, we're all going to smacking each other on the ass. Like, hey man, like, all right, well, I guess I'll go back to El Salvador. You got me, dude. They're going to be shooting. They're going to be trying to blow holes through the chests of American men who were actually doing the job. So while everybody here gets to get the benefit and reap the benefits, and I hate having to defend the police, but like, I'm not like, we have our own American men putting their own lives at risk to do this thing. And we're going to get, and if it comes through and we get the mass deportations, we will reap the benefits of such. But in between there, what you have is American men putting their lives on the line to actually get these illegals out of the country. And it's like, are you kidding me, dude? If I have a car coming at me, you know what's going to flash in my eyes? I'm going to see an image of my daughter and my wife, and I'll be like, not me, dude, not today. And if you don't have that, then then evolution just hasn't caught up yet. I'm sorry, dude. People are so removed, and this is part of the issue I've had for a long time with just policing in general, and a lot of these elements of what man, especially, let's take a look at men specifically, the outsourcing of like masculinity to different departments like policing has left such a bad smear on every generation of man that's came after that it's warping people to have, it's you can see it's warping individuals. The same way that women are being warped to be more masculine, men are being warped to be more feminine. You see this. And I know I said I would do the Jake GBT thing. Let me get this out first while I'm on. It's the last thing I have for the Minnesota thing. But I won't read through this entire thing here, but it is from Asuka Groyper. You can find it yourself too if you want. But again, you have these individuals who are coming in and like Jake Shields, and they're pushing this like this race line element. And I do think this point from Asuka Groyper is exactly where I am. Like, we need to hold ourselves to a higher standard. It's not to say we have no in-group preference or bias towards ourselves, but it is to say like we have a line when it's like someone clearly commits some level of like a misevent or a crime. It's like, yeah, these people need to face justice. That's just being objective. But I'll read a couple of things through here. I'll read like the beginning of it. And so he says, over the past few days, the Minneapolis ICE shooting, it's been surprising to see the response from those on the online right that aren't Groypers or they're Groyper adjacent. Their continued inability to hold women accountable for the actions, despite how woke or base they are, there are still so many men who cannot legitimately criticize women and take them off the pedestal they put them on. Or are they just afraid to be misogynistic or get called an incel? Point 2, while they might not openly admit it, it is clear that they think that non-whites' blind loyalty towards each other is admirable, even when they're wrong. It's not admirable. It's low IQ behavior. Instead of wanting to correct this behavior in non-whites, they want us to act more like them. He concludes down here at the bottom. I will not come to the defense of some psychotic liberal lesbian who is interfering with the government's lackluster attempt to deport millions of illegal non-whites just because their parents were European. We should hold our race to a higher standard. Whites who act like low-impulse tribalists are embarrassing and counterproductive. We lose when we adopt the behaviors we correctly despise in others. People might have differing opinions on there. I think a Wignat might take a bit of a offense to that. I mean, I agree. I do agree on those ends. But Jake GTV, what ball? This will break the ice. We're gonna get out of our serious. This will help cool me down, I think. I wasn't actually expecting to get that mad. I wasn't even mad when I was making the outline. I was just generally irritated just seeing the way these people act. It's from October 20th, 2025. From January 8th. I'll have to see which one that you are referencing, my brother. Do you have a recent one? If he does, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. Are you talking about this latest one with Erica Kirk? Oh yes, I have this video. We're gonna get to this video. Jake announced something for January 14th, I think. Interesting. This is from January 8th. I'm not seeing him respond. Okay. Well, I'll keep this tab here. Wow, look at that pretty bird. But there was really the wrapping up of the coverage there of what's come out from the body cam footage being released. The radical element though of it, can't be ignored. And these are some of the things I wanted to push to too. Just to show you how it's the Democrat strongholds reacting. How is the left overall reacting to a lot of this? And so we'll start here with Rep. Janelle Bynum on CNN. Oh, forgive me. You responded. He says, saying Mossad killed Charlie's more accurate, but he's not dead. It's all a show. Charlie's with Epstein in Israel, Talmudic children. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Okay. So what I have on screen here is Rep. What's her name? Janelle Bynum. And this is a shorter clip, but it's in reference to another one of these clips here. But she is actively pushing inflammatory rhetoric towards law enforcement officers and officials. And so we're just taking a look. It's about 20 seconds long, this exchange here from a CNN host.
And just real quickly, there are folks that are going to hear you say things like state-sponsored terrorism. You put out as a statement, literally, stop fucking with us, was your words. These are goons. And they'll say that is raising the temperature and actually puts some of this law enforcement officers in greater danger. What do you say to that?
I said what I said.
Okay. And just
okay. That's the response, right? Like, what do you even say to that? Like, like if you should go to jail. Okay, we're done here. Wrap it up. This lady's crazy. But what she said with another CNN host was a bit more revealing. And so this is her, again, Rep. Bynum. She's from Oregon. Calls Trump's deportations state-sponsored terrorism. It was me. I got JFK. It was me. That's funny. It was me. It's funny.
And ICE has been.
But this is the clip here from X Alerts. And this is, again, the same woman who we just saw in the previous clip, again, continuing on with what she thinks about Trump's deportations, again, using the rhetoric, state-sponsored terrorism.
And ICE has been using.
Forgive me, that's so loud, dude. Holy crap.
As we know, for several months now, car stops as a method to enforce immigration. They have been, and we have seen that around the country. On the phone now is Congresswoman Janelle Bynum, whose district includes part of Portland. Congresswoman, I appreciate you taking the time. This is very preliminary information that we're getting here, and I'm just obviously, so let's just start here with what you have learned. What do you know about the officer, the Customs and Border Patrol shooting in Portland right now?
Well, we know that their presence is not welcome in the way that they're attempting to do law enforcement. We don't believe that it's law enforcement. We believe it is state-sponsored terrorism.
We don't believe it is law enforcement. We believe it is state-sponsored terrorism. So it's not even just that she's just saying it to say it. That is a very pro statement of we do not recognize the authority of ICE. I mean, like, what else do you need? Like this, why is she not arrested? How are you allowed to go on CNN and make these kind of comments? No, it's going to get broadcasted to the airwaves to a bunch of people who are going to probably act on it.
And so we've made several calls over and over and over again for the president to stop sending goons to Portland and to leave us alone.
Okay, but do you know anything about the shooting itself, about the people shot or anything? Have officials shared any of that information with you?
Yes, my staff has shared with me that there was an interaction. There were two people involved. There was a gunshot, at least one gunshot fired. The people from the original site of the firing drove to another site and are being treated at a local hospital.
Okay. Regardless, okay, she knows what happened. Like, it's okay. She's well aware of what occurred, and she does not care. And that's just one lady, right? So that's from Oregon. That's Rep. Janelle Bynum, again, from Oregon. Now, there's another portion of this story that is another side piece here, but this is a Minnesota protest. This is another shorter clip, and this was got by Laura Ingraham. I always feel like I say her name wrong. It's not really as explosive as what I think people who are saying it is. But I saw a report, and it was like, protester admits to being paid to protest. And again, let's add some context here. I'll play the clip so you guys can see what I'm talking about.
Shame! Shame!
Do you have a job?
Do
you have a job?
Shame! Shame! I'm getting paid right now! Shame! Shame! Shame!
So she says, I'm getting paid right now.
Shame! Shame! I'm getting paid right now! Shame! Shame!
So in that sense, it's like, sure, we know there's central planning going on. Obviously, I say it 1,000 times. The brick pallet didn't put itself there, right? The brick pallet didn't just show up out of nowhere. It didn't just manifest itself. But this to me was also like, I get it. Then investigate this girl. Investigate her. If that's an admission and she's being paid, and that was an admission of there being a conspiratorial element to it, then yeah. Then arrest her, investigate her, and see what she has to say. Instead of just pushing it on Fox News. How about we see this girl getting arrested? Let's follow it up with that. In the same Minnesota rally that's occurring, that it's catching steam, you have another Minnesota leftist, and again, showing you how radicalized these things are. This man in particular says, quote, along with many other things, he says, quote, we have to show up with guns.
With no cause and murdering people for trying to flee and for obeying a command to leave the area, and then shooting her in the face like that after she drops her kid off at school. We have to show up with guns. We have to. There's no other way around it. I don't care if I don't have a Minnesota carry permit. I'm unarmed right now, but this is the last time I show up to face these guys without a weapon. There's no way. I got shot with a pepper ball 5 minutes after walking in here. I never laid a finger on them. I never raised a hand to them. I've only been using my voice. The time for speaking is over. The time for niceties is over. The time for peace is over. They fired the first shot. It is time to end this shit by any means necessary.
You're talking about, potentially going.
Time to end this by any means necessary. He is, quite frankly, repeating all of the stuff in the same rhetoric that we saw on Reddit yesterday, which was many people responding on Reddit saying they fired the first shot, which is, coincidentally enough, very similar to what China is saying, which is kind of crazy. But this is what they think. I mean, these are the terms that they are setting. Just like Reed's putting there. These are the terms they're putting out. This is how many of them clearly and obviously feel, and they are the ones showing up. And again, like we saw with the other, there's like two, it was a married couple, it was like the Tren de Aragua cartel members. One was something Luis, and the other one was involved in like a previous shooting in like a prostitution ring, and they're being arrested. I think they were shot too, but it's across the board. It's obviously spiking up.
To a dark place in this country. Do you foresee?
We're there. This is the dark place. This is the dark time. We have people being sent to Salvadorian concentration camps. We got other countries being raided for their oil. We're in the dark time. There's no way out of this. There's no voting our way out of this. We can't wait till November. There's no waiting to the ballot box. We need to get to the bullet box. That's the only way. If there was another way, I'd be advocating for it. I've spoken peacefully. I've marched peacefully. I marched without Sharpton. I marched on Washington. I've been peaceful. I've acted peacefully. The time for peace is over. The time for any means necessary is right now.
Now both sides are saying we're not voting our way out of this. So, what's the next step? If there ever was a civil war, if there ever was a civil war, if there ever was an insurrection, if there ever was, unfortunately, I obviously don't want bad things to happen to people, but this is not going to go well. This is why there needs to be a stronger, more quick and efficient law enforcement response. Letting these things bubble up and pop off is just very unfortunate. More people are unfortunately going to be harmed, and that's not what we want. We don't want more people to be getting hurt. We just want society to be healed. Continuing on from here, there's a couple other ones. I won't play them. I know we're running super late now at this point. I probably will go long. But there's another one that I caught. Border Patrol agent had to warn 2 different sets of white women in 2 different SUVs to stop trailing them, to stop stalking them. And that one was, again, was being super nice to him, but the lady was being a huge biatch back to him. And people had pointed out too, you can find this, there's a screenshot, but literally in the passenger seat, and she's telling him, I hope you have a terrible day. In the passenger seat, she literally has adult diapers. And I saw this tweet go viral that people are thinking that this must be what she's wearing because she's planning to protest all night. She's wearing an adult diaper. It's just like, oh man, it's just all around. It's like, it's just, more of the same. And, there was another one too, where like this lady, I think she was a foreigner, and she's trying to like confront ICE. It's all in Spanish too. She shows up. She's like trying to push him up against the wall. The guys are pushing him back. She like fake falls down. At least to me, it seemed like she was like throwing herself on the ground. And again, it's across all across the nation, and these are coming up in different states. The one I will take you to though, this is the Seattle mayor, Kitty Wilson. She is continuing the same rhetoric as Tim Walz and Mayor Frey and Zohran Mamdani and many others, calling the shooting a murder, placing the blame on the ICE agent. And going beyond there, she condemns ICE, but now she's also pushing for her constituents to sign up for ICE alerts so they can be better informed when ICE is around, so they can help illegals hide and go protest and harass the agents. I kid you not. Here's this.
Yesterday, armed ICE agents in an unmarked vehicle detained 3 North Seattle neighbors at Evergreen Washelli Cemetery. I am furious at the federal government's abuse of power. It is unacceptable to kidnap people who are simply going about their lives. There is no place for this in Seattle. This latest abuse comes on the heels of the murder of Renee Nicole Good in Minneapolis by federal agents. Renee was a poet, a caring neighbor, and a mother. Someone with a family whose community is now grieving unimaginable loss. These are not abstractions. These are real people, real families, and real harm. I know many people in our community are frightened and outraged about the way ICE and other federal enforcement agencies are being deliberately deployed across the country to intimidate and harm our communities. I am heartbroken and outraged too. This moment demands action. Here's what we're doing. Seattle is a welcoming city. We already have laws in place that forbid our local police from aiding ICE in most instances. The police will adhere to these laws. That's an important step. But it's also true that we have limited authority with regard to the actions of federal agencies. And I know that our existing laws are not enough to keep people safe. So I'm working with Police Chief Barnes, City Attorney Evans, immigrant rights groups, and local leaders to identify every possible legal argument, public resource, and creative tool we can use to keep the people of Seattle safe. This will take all of us. I urge you to sign up for the Washington for All ICE mobilization alerts. And don't stop there. I encourage you to raise your voices and demand that every elected official does what they can to actually protect the people who make our neighborhoods home. This is a scary situation, and situations like this are when we show ourselves who we are and what we believe. Here in Seattle, we practice solidarity. Everyone should be safe in their homes, in their workplaces, and in their city. My message to our immigrant neighbors: this is your city. You should be safe here, and I'm determined to make it that way.
Treason, sedition, whatever tag you want to put on there, leading an insurrection. I don't even care what the charge is. Unacceptable, completely unacceptable. Yeah, the toxicology report. I have it saved. This is the toxology report for Renee Nicole Good. Well, okay, let's not just scroll. This is the George Floyd one, isn't it? Yeah. I did get punked. Somebody said that was the George Floyd one. So I could be completely wrong about that. And it would be pretty quick to get the toxicology report that fast, to be honest with you. It's funny, she died of a fentanyl overdose. Okay, I didn't see this one, mind you. I would have known it was fake if I'd seen this one. I saw it from like an official account. It looks like they got punked too, because it would have been one of the top results here. Yeah, so wind that back. That was wrong. I was wrong. I was punked. The toxicology report for Renee Good has not been released, so I apologize for that. And what a photo too. I mean, this is just the situation at large. It's right there. That's the toxicology report right here. But again, the radicalization's continuing. You're seeing it. You're seeing it, with Katie Wilson in Seattle. She's leading an insurrection. This one's in Philadelphia. This is Larry Krasner. He's the Philadelphia district attorney in Philadelphia. And he's warning ICE agents in the wake of Minneapolis shooting, quote, if any law enforcement agent, any ICE agent is going to come to Philly to commit crimes, then you can get the F out of here. Here was the full statement from Mr. Larry Krasner. And this is again in Philadelphia.
If any law enforcement agent, any ICE agent is going to come to Philly to commit crimes, then you can get the F out of here. Because if you do that here, I will charge you with those crimes. You will be arrested. You will stand trial. You will be convicted, whether it's in state or federal court. It's my office prosecuting it. That's how the law works. And you will do your time because Donald Trump cannot pardon you for a state court conviction. Do you hear me, ICE agents? Do you hear me, National Guard? Do you hear me, military? You're going to jail if you commit crimes in the city of Philadelphia. You will be accountable. The law applies to all of you. And I know that there are honest, decent, moral law enforcement officers out there by the bushel, including in ICE. This is not for you. This is for any one of your colleagues who thinks they are above the law.
So again, that's just more grains of sand in the heap that is across the board. You have Democrats chanting this kind of idling rhetoric for insurrection, placing very, very staunchly that multiple areas will not recognize ICE as the authority that they are. Now, furthermore, in Philadelphia specifically, I got this from Rochelle Bilal, who is the sheriff in Philadelphia. She literally verbatim says, quote, ICE is fake law enforcement. Here's her statement, and hers is a bit more ridiculous, to be honest with you. Yeah, this is really annoying. Yeah, tell me about it. Glad that these people rule over us.
Good afternoon. I'm Rochelle Bilal, the sheriff for the city and county of Philadelphia. And I say her name, Renee Good. Renee Good. Renee Good. Renee Good. Renee Good. Renee Good. This should not have happened, but we're here today. Let know that law enforcement professionals, real ones, not the fake made up ICE, probably Trump's new army to attack citizens of the United States. Did you hear what I said? No law enforcement professional wears a mask. None. None. Those that come into our communities wearing a mask to commit crime, I'm thank God for our district.
Just to address that in the middle of this black speak, I did cover this a couple of days ago, and people were pointing out that the language used in that USPS warning letter on January 5th that they sent out to everybody this year was very, very, very similar in language to what was put out by them right before COVID. So they could be expecting something like this. Minnesota schools were shut down both yesterday and today because of this event, because of the unrest. I think there are other things that are being also shut down as well too, all around this event. And if we get some kind of lockdown again like that soon, I no way people will allow it. That will be an insanity if they start locking stuff down over civil unrest.
Attorney Larry Krasner, who say he's going to lock him up, and I'm saying now we are not going to whisk you away for them to hide your identity, because when you do it there, you're getting arrested there. No whisk away for them to hide you. None of that here. None of that here. Law enforcement professionals do not shoot at moving vehicles. I'm not saying fleeing, because she wasn't fleeing. She was getting out of the way. Law enforcement professionals do not stand in front of moving vehicles invoking an action that is illegal. No, we don't.
She literally just said he made her do something illegal. It was the ICE agent who made her do the illegal thing. Like, dude, these people, bro.
And so we stand here today with all those who stand against the made-up, fake, what you can call ICE, professional law enforcement. I don't call them none of that. I call them made-up, fake, wannabe law enforcement. Because what they do is against not only legal law, but the moral law. So I'm with the DA, and we will work with them. If any of them want to come in this city and commit a crime, you will not be able to hide. Nobody will whisk you off. You don't want this smoke, because we will bring it to you. And the fake, whatever they call them, because I can't say the name, but the criminal in the White House would not be able to keep you from going to jail.
It's more of this kind of, this bobblehead, like the Candace Owens type thing, although not to attack Candace Owens, not to have her catch it straight here, but like, what is this? And like Tom said earlier, like, these people are not tough. Now the rhetoric looks very crazy until what happens when actually you get a U.S. Marshal shows up to rescue her. Who would it be actually? But again, regardless of who gets sent in there, these people need arrested. This has clearly gone on well beyond what can be tolerated. They have quite literally broken the social contract in terms of what they're willing to honor in terms of the balance of power between the state and the federal. We just can't. There's no way. And across the nation too, it's like in Philly, in Washington, in Minnesota, and in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and in all of these areas, New York City now giving these growing kind of communist chants. Just can't. I thought that too. It probably is. I've never seen that style of hat before, to be honest with you, but it's kind of a streak that we have going on, so I would imagine. And hers was maybe probably the most explosive out of anybody's. The opposite is actually happening in Chicago. Now, I'm going to do this because I want to give a shout out to the police department superintendent, Larry Snelling, because this is what the guy said in Chicago. And I was actually glad to hear this. This is like, at least they're not all being entirely, on the same kind of front line here. But this is Larry Snelling, and this is actually in the opposite direction of what we just heard from the Philadelphia Philly sheriff.
Federal agents, ICE, HSI, are officers. They are agents of law enforcement. If you box them in with vehicles,
this is bad.
It is reasonable for them to believe that they are being ambushed and that this could end in a deadly situation.
Bang half.
And it's reasonable for them to use force based on those conditions. Do not box in any law enforcement officer. You are breaking the law when you do that.
It's true. That's true. This guy is now, he will be deemed a white supremacist. He said obey the law, and now he's a white supremacist. That's actually how it works. But good on him. Good on Larry Snelling. He's pushing the opposite. He's pushing like, if you box him in, it's going to be reasonable for them to believe that you're going to try to do something to them. Duh. And this is why we need to have men in charge too. Completely agree with you, Robotron. Clearly. You know, although Larry Krasner and Jacob Frey aren't doing too good of a job of of outlining that either, they're just lying and they're just evil people. In addition to that, there are a few other ones, probably not that important to get into. I just wanted to highlight those ones. Michael Fanone, who is he's a infamous now J6 cop, has now put out a statement. He was with Maya Meyer, some other black lady like that. He said that people need to start shooting at ICE. That's what he said. Another liberal mom was acting tough and then literally wept on the road after the cops stopped her. She was surrounded by federal agents. She was like flipping them off. She ran a red light. She was like speeding all around the road. And they boxed her in. As soon as they pull her over, dude, she's like weeping. She's like, please, I'm a mom. Don't do this. Consequences, man. They come at you fast. Then there was a Senate hopeful. His name is James Tellerico. James Tellerico is a Senate hopeful there in Texas. He's running. I'm not sure who he's running against, to be honest with you. But I've heard the name before quite a bit. But he says if the Democrats get a majority, they should ban ICE from arresting illegals. And now he's pushing for the Democrats to limit the power of ICE. Then you also have that the Democrat rep Emily Randall, I'll play this one. She says instead of focusing on the Somalis and the fraud, the government should investigate white men. Funny enough. Here's that clip.
Out all of the data that we want to create the sense that there is a bad guy. There is a bad group of people. There are folks who are not among us. There are folks who are other. And I think we should spend a lot more time looking at ourselves, looking at American citizens, looking at white men.
Wonderful. Yeah. Wow. Wow, indeed. Not surprised in the slightest. This is status quo. And of course, it comes from none other than a racially ambiguous fat woman. I kid you not. You could not have made a more predictable thing of all time. Now, there are things that I did find particularly intriguing, and that's going to rope in Stephen A. Smith. And that is the fact that in the last go around, when people were kind of confused of who may have been the front runner during the last presidential run, before Kamala Harris was ultimately selected, there was mention of a man who goes by the name of Stephen A. Smith. And Stephen A. Smith has actually come back into the forte, and he has been actually positioning himself as a moderate. And this is only concerning in the line that even right now, as we approach again 2028, there is speculation on who would potentially be the front runner. Now, most people have already deemed that Gavin Newsom will be that individual. But I do think Stephen A. Smith is also a particularly curious candidate, given the fact that he might be able to capture the black card once again, seeing how he is himself black, and he's, primarily been in sports his entire career. But he takes two positions I was not ready for him to take. The first one is actually that he takes aim at one of the callers that's calling in, complaining about Trump, and he reverses it on the caller. Wasn't expecting that. And then also, additionally, he also continues talking about he believes sanctuary cities shouldn't exist. This is just curious because it's coming from Stephen A. Smith, but it's somebody who I've always thought in that same vein of like an Oprah Winfrey would be a celebrity. That'd be the celebrity call of the token card they may pull up. Whether president or vice president, I do think Stephen A. Smith is somebody who the Democrat Party would give a honest look into. So here's his first one. This is him taking aim at his caller here, and this is just a short clip, about 2 minutes long. And he just goes to bat essentially over, who really has mental illness. And he basically says, I'm not going to let it slide. Right? The left wing is just as insane. I'm not going to let you slide on saying it's only on one side. So here's that clip.
There's mental illness in some of these people, Stephen.
Well, not all of them. Time. No. You don't get to do that. Don't talk to me about mental illness on the side of the right. But you have people talking about transgender without parental consent, and men transitioning to women and playing in women's sports and thinking that was okay, and people could be incarcerated and they could have sex changes and stuff like that. Oh, no. You don't get to sit up there and just point to the right about that and not act like there wasn't craziness on the left too. I'm a moderate who primarily votes Democrat. And I'm here to tell you something right now. I don't recognize this left. Or not this one. Not the one that I've been seeing over the last few years. I'm a moderate who will lean left on everything but dollars, meaning taxes. I can't stand high taxes in California, New York, New Jersey. Okay, I'm a fiscal conservative with my money. I'm liberal with everything else. And I'm still appalled by how far left the left has leaned.
And this isn't, trust me, this is no endorsement of Stephen A. Smith. I'm just saying, and bringing this to your attention, that I have felt like I did last time as we approach 2024. I have the feeling that once again, there's a little bit of boosting occurring on Stephen A. Smith, that potentially he may be someone that they tried to introduce as a candidate the closer we get to 2028. And then he continues, this is one I was not expecting at all, because this actually is a staunch opposition to, I wouldn't even say just progressives, but like just generally left-wing politics. So he continues with another clip here. This one was a bit more crazy, to be honest. It's shorter. But the summary of it is, as Stephen A. Smith suggests, that sanctuary cities should not exist.
I don't understand how sanctuary cities, honestly speaking, I got to educate myself in it. I don't understand how sanctuary cities are allowed in this country.
Agreed.
I really don't. I don't get it. If there's federal laws that mandate that, you know what, you can't cross the border illegally, there shouldn't be sanctuary cities saying, yes, you can. It just shouldn't be. I mean, one way or another, pick one. You either can or you can't. But it shouldn't be federal government says no, but you say yes, so you get to usurp the authority of the federal government, and we're still calling ourselves a nation of laws. Well, which laws? It makes no sense. That's where I'm coming from, Andy.
I live in Los Angeles.
You got 30 seconds, Andy. Andy, you got 30 seconds. You got 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Never voted once or was given the offer to vote for or against sanctuary city or state. I think it's a bunch of baloney.
Yeah. I don't blame you for feeling that way, because the American people should have an opportunity to vote on it. You're absolutely right. I didn't even know that was the case, Andy, until you just told me. You understand? How you a sanctuary city just by declaring yourself to be a sanctuary city, but the citizens in the city didn't even vote on it? That doesn't seem to be the American way.
So I agree in the sense of what the other commenter put in here. Forgive me, I lost the name there. But dangerous in the sense that he could typically appeal to those people who are in the middle, who don't want to appeal to the kind of the stronger, more exacted, kind of inaccurate language that will probably be propagating what the Republican Party will be moving to, with candidates such as like James Fishback and Casey Putsch. And I say that in dangerous in the sense that like he could be somebody who can gather votes just in his ethos as well. But again, dude, those are some good positions to be holding. Like, yeah, no sanctuary cities. How about, instead of voting on it, how about like never again? We just don't have them at all. But just to say, like, there seems to be some positioning happening with Stephen A. Smith that, to me, feels as if he is trying to position himself as a moderate to better kind of give a better face to the Democrat Party, or give someone to latch upon, someone to sink their teeth into, that is not all of the insanity that everyone's come to know as the left wing. So that's kind of it for the radicalization element of it. The immigration enforcement part. So this is from the USA Today. Forgive me. Sorry if anybody heard the music that clicked the wrong button. The immigration enforcement, the reason I wanted to highlight this is I read the article from USA Today, and the parts that kind of caught me by attention was, again, quotation, it's coming from JD Vance, but he says that the immigration enforcement has only just begun. They plan to ramp it up. And they say, per the USA Today article, they say 10,000 more ICE agents are set to hit the streets in the coming weeks. Or they say it in the coming months, but I'd imagine with this kind of situation unfolding, it'll probably be in the coming weeks. And then again, this will bring them to a total of 22,000 federal agents in the streets, compared to, which is up from the 10,000 that they had during 2025. And the one thing that they started to implement, what they call in November, they're called skip tracers. So the skip tracers, like a third-party contracted kind of group. And what they do is they do both online and in-person verification of home and work addresses. So there looks like they're outsourcing some of the work that the federal agents might otherwise be doing, but it seems that they're outsourcing some of the more investigative stuff so that the officers can actually be in the streets. Because obviously a third-party contracted group isn't going to be able to arrest people, but a law enforcement agent would. And so it looks like they are outsourcing this to other parties to help, so they can have more agents on the ground actually doing the arrest. And per AF Post, this is who I saw it from. They had a couple posts about this. They wrote a post that said that the deportation efforts actually started focusing on illegals without prior criminal records, starting in around September, November. And what that means is through 2025, the emphasis had been clear that the primary focus for the deportation efforts had been towards immigrants who had criminal history or were violent criminals, or ones who were like, they had charges and crimes beyond crossing the border illegally. But what the data is showing is that somewhere late last year, that focus shifted towards a more broader effort of deportations, roping in a lot more people who didn't have prior criminal histories, who literally only had the crime of crossing the border illegally. And so I'll show you this graph here, put it on screen. And again, this is from AF Post here, but I'll put it up on screen so everybody can see this. So it shows you the detention population among those arrested in the interior. And so this is from May 2019 through January 7th, 2026. But what we're just focused on right here is the shift here from 2024 through 2025 and now closer to 2026. And what you'll see here is the orange line is the no criminal record. Right? This means that no criminal record. That means they don't have any prior convictions or pending criminal charges, meaning that the only crime that they have is that they cross the border illegally. So it's like the one crime there. You can see it just spikes, immediately spikes up as the closer we get to 2026. The other two show you the prior conviction, which shows you earlier, right at the beginning of 2025, prior to May, 'cause this is from May 4th, 2025, so this would be closer to January right here. You can see it dramatically upticks along with the pending criminal charges. And as the year went on, you can see there's a drop off in both the prior convictions and the pending criminal charges, and immediately no criminal record spikes up, which is indicative that there is a more enhanced and more broad deportation effort, which is what we have been asking for. And like this post says right here, which is what we voted for. So to bring that to your attention. So again, maybe not to say we've been too harsh, but I mean, we have to chimp out given the nature of what's happening. We never don't chimp. Chimping required. But this is a good positive development to see that this is making it onto the newsway. Now, in addition to that, we also have Oversight Chairman James Comer is applying pressure to Pam Bondi, quote, there haven't been enough arrests. So I won't play this out loud because it's basically what I've just said right there. But it's showing that there's more pressure now coming for getting more arrests. Specifically, he's talking about the criminal referrals collecting dust, some of which I would imagine he's making references to the January 6th committee and all of those involved with these other kind of prior deep state operations who have a clear kind of paths to prosecution that are just simply not being acted upon by Pam Bondi and otherwise. So beyond that one of the next ones here is in the same line of the immigration enforcement is this right here. And so I want to play this. This is coming from Trump himself. And this is actually a vow from Donald Trump to look and launch in a RICO investigation into both George Soros and Reid Hoffman, who are funding Antifa and the left-wing violence against ICE, the central planners, if you will. So here was Trump's statement on that.
Of the tariffs, this is possible. The other thing I'd like to add before going.
Right, exactly. And this is what people got irritated about. This is why I had that post the other day where I was like, oh no, like the eternal unwavering force that is the statute of limitations, which is like, who gives a shit what the statute of limitations is? These people are criminals. Put them behind bars. How 9K, thank you again for the super chat, brother. He says, spam Christ is king for chat engagement. Yes. Yeah. How about that? Yeah. How about instead of W's, we'll just spam Christ is king. But again, I'll rewind it here. And again, this is Trump talking about this. And thank you for the super chat again, brother. I appreciate it.
Of the tariffs, this is possible. The other thing I'd like to add before going to Scott, and I think it's very important, we're going to also give the tractor companies, John Deere and all of the companies that make the equipment, we're going to take off a lot of the environmental restrictions that they have on machinery. It's ridiculous. I know because I buy a lot of that machinery for different things. We have a lot of big clubs with, hundreds, thousands of acres. And I buy a lot of stuff, and you buy it, it's got so much equipment on it for the environmental, it doesn't do anything, except it makes the equipment much more expensive and much more complicated to work, and it's not as good as the old days. And we're going to take a lot of that nonsense off of the equipment, which is going to reduce, and we're going to do it and we're going to say you're going to reduce the prices. We're not going to do it, and they're not going to reduce. They're going to have to reduce their prices because farming equipment has gotten too expensive. And a lot of the reason is because they put these environmental excesses on the equipment, which don't do a damn thing except make it complicated, make it impractical. And you really have to be, in many cases, you need about 185 IQ to turn on a lawnmower now. So we're going to take that off, that crap off that they put on Biden mostly. And we're going to take that off. So that's going to make that'll bring down the equipment prices.
I need to listen to this again. I apologize. I'm like confused. I feel like the video's not matching up with the commentary.
To the tariffs, this is possible. The other thing I'd like to add before going to Scott, and I think it's very important, we're going to also give the tractor companies, John Deere and all of the companies that make the equipment, we're going to take off a lot of the environmental restrictions that they have on machinery. It's ridiculous.
I used the wrong clip here. Holy crap. Yeah, that clip has nothing to do with Israel. I did see it earlier, though. Let me find the actual one. Dude, some people, dude, like, how hard could it be to attach the right video? But that's old news. That's old news. September 12th, 2025. That's old news. That's crazy. I thought he made more statements about it today because he had said stuff about that previously. That's crazy, guys. You can watch here and see the fake news stuff. Actually insane. The grifting and the engagement on the farming on X is just, Lord help me, dude. Now that I'm 30, I'm a boomer and I can't discern it very well. I'm gonna have to start sending it to you guys to help tell me if it's AI or not. Lord have mercy. Okay, so again, that's a bit of a nothing burger. I thought there was an update on where he was saying on that. Like, apparently not. It's just people grift farming, dude. I can't stand the stupid MAGA accounts on here. But like I said previously, we talked about the Supreme Court. I'll take you to this is from Polymarket, I believe. And this was, they didn't comment on it. Okay, so now there's added community updates. So this is from Polymarket, and it's from earlier today, about 10:30 in the morning. This is breaking. The U.S. Supreme Court says it will not rule against Trump tariffs, quote, for now. Community note says there's a difference between the Supreme Court not commenting about the tariff case versus the U.S. Supreme Court says it will not rule against Trump's tariffs for now. The only opinion issued today by SCOTUS was this. There's no statement about the tariff case. And so this was a statement here from the Supreme Court. And Lord forgive me, I cannot see that for save my life. Let me get my glasses again. And it looks like this was just to the appeals. Looks like it's a federal case about Michael Bowe, which that name sounds familiar for some reason. Okay, so it looks like that it may still be coming. So that could be potential. Okay. Okay, so that's just a small statement on one case, it looks like, between A, B, C, and D. So again, like this community note says, Supreme Court can still be coming in and giving a statement on the tariffs or ruling on the tariffs. And again, what's been floated out has been this idea. Some people have been pushing that they will, that SCOTUS may push to rule that the tariffs were, we would say, unlawful, unconstitutional. And then an extension beyond there would be some way to like refund the money, which seems like just an insane thing. Like, why would we be giving other countries money? That's just retarded. But that's where it's been at. And we didn't, forgive me, and we didn't get that. But a lot of people were expecting that we would get that. I apologize if that was loud on the microphone. And again, the Gronk taker close off bit, that's coming to an end. A lot of people were upset and irritated about that. But again, the Guardian reported on it late last night that Elon and the image editing function for Grok to take bikinis off of it, which I'm sure many of you guys have seen if you were on X lately, which if you just browse for not too long, you'll see a photo of an OnlyFans girl be like, Grok, can you put me in this? And other ones where girls just post photos of themselves and you see in the comments, it's like, Grok, can you make her do this and make her swing from like this tree or something like that? And it was just gross seeing it all over the timeline. But obviously pornography is dominant nowadays and it gets likes because people are less shameless about it. And to that end, it was just, to me, I was just, I'm glad that I'm not having to see it on my timeline as much anymore, but it seems like there may be some rulings that are coming out of it. Appreciate the super chat, Zeb. 1 second, I'll get right to you. But even the UK had contemplated banning X over this because of how disgusting it was and how much of it was being, you could just log in and anybody would have it. Now it's being limited to only paying users can do it. And I think even on some of the public posts that you see, Grok is not responding to people, which is a good thing. We need less porn on these apps. And the funniest part of it, though, was one of the loudest voices complaining was Ashley St. Clair. And Ashley St. Clair was complaining she lost her check mark. You know, she lost her verification. They paused her creator revenue, and people were making the joke like, you know, that she's his least favorite baby mama. And she was threatening to sue over the photos that were being made of her. And I don't really know if she'd be able to win the case, to be honest with you. I think there was already a case that had occurred like that somebody had lost a ruling on. So we'll see with that, but it looks like that will be the direction people are posing. And obviously ban porn across the board. Nobody wants to see that. Zeb says, do you see the Colvette and Nick Shirley clip from September 10th? I saw you post about it. I'm trying to remember the framing. I think what I had read from this was Nick Shirley was supposedly the last person who had talked to Charlie Kirk like in person or was like interviewed by him. And it happened like hours beforehand. I saw that your post, but it seemed that it seemed like there was a lot of terms and terminology that was also present during that. As there was like in some of the story that we saw after that. Looks like I'm losing a bit of internet. Hopefully that does not continue. Please. No. Looks like my internet is recovering. I hope so. I'm just going to sit here and watch it for a second. I'm dropping frames like crazy. Funny enough, I mentioned the Nick Shirley clip and Charlie Kirk, and all of a sudden my internet looks like Mossad attacked it. You guys got the wrong address. This is not Iran. I'm in Ohio. Okay, is it back? Cool. I can, though. Let me go find it off of Zeb's page real quick before I move on to something else. Zeb Boykin. I can just search up Soy Boy. I think Zeb Boykin's first result. No, I'm messing. But Zeb says, the gang violence, bullet launched under the skin, the timing. Interesting. So let's take a listen to that then. We put it on screen here. And we got this from Zeb. Going to be in... you posted it recently, dude. I know you did. But Zeb's on here, dude. He tears it up on it. This one, right? Charlie Kirk show, September 10th, the morning of the assassination with Nick Shirley on a randomly selected clip of gun violence. Interesting. Including or not including gang violence. And the bullet getting stuck under the skin. Quote, Superman. Interesting. Okay, let's take a listen. Let's see what's in there.
And just for this one day, we're letting Charlie focus on that, get back in the saddle. And so I get the honor of being with all of you from coast to coast and all across streaming and all the things. Here at the Bitcoin.com mobile studios, I am so excited about this next guest. His name is Nick Shirley. He's an independent journalist. You can follow him on X at Nick Shirley. That's SHIRLEYY. Maybe we can help him get rid of that second Y. And then on YouTube at Nick Shirley as well. Nick, I saw your footage and I was blown away. And so just really quick, before we get into the footage, introduce yourself to the audience and what it is you do.
Yeah, my name's Nick Shirley. I'm an independent YouTube journalist, and I go all across the world, not just the United States, but all across the world.
To just address one thing real quick, Hook. This is one of the most misleading elements of the entire thing. The C4 came from Officer Talmud, Brian Harpool, and I think Stephen Gardner. All three of those guys, and the reason why the C4 is floating out is because all three of those guys, I think it all actually came from Brian Harpool, but the other two guys was referencing him, that they had seen the autopsy report and like it had been mentioned in there. However, like I think most of that was just kind of like, it's like hearsay. It's not like the report actually says C4. It came from people like Brian Harpool and others. And so how much, importance could you put in that? But many people were operating with that, right? Valhalla VFT was putting it up there and showing it hitting the C4. Many people were building their theories off of it. But at the end of the day, it was just hearsay from Brian Harpool, which how much can you trust Brian Harpool and Officer Talmud? I don't think you can.
Showing the realities of things as they really are, whether it had been the migrant crisis or the fentanyl crisis or asking people who they're voting for. I go to all the locations or just doing ride-alongs with gangsters in Chicago as well.
Yeah. Okay. So this I saw it and I was like, this is like, it was some of the most incredible footage I've ever seen, because you went straight into the west side kind of hood of Chicago and you're hanging out with gangsters. At one point, they point the gun at your cameraman and you hear him go, whoa, 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 whoa. I mean, this is really radical stuff, and you put yourself in harm's way for this footage. So I just want to start playing some of it, because it not only is it amazing to see up close, it's also so newsy and everything that's happening. And I think it gives people a really unique insight into how these cultures of crime and real like urban warfare.
Here they're talking about the gang violence. If Zeb's in here, correct me if I'm wrong, but they have not published the report. All that we have from the report are people who have said they've seen the report. Andrew Colvett included among a few others. That's as far as I understand the report, as really just, it's a lot of people who said that they saw it, or they had talked to the doctor, or they had heard from another TPUSA official. So it's like, it's a game of telephone about the autopsy report. Thank you, Zeb. That's what I thought. Appreciate you, brother.
Happen. Let's go ahead and play. We could start anywhere, but let's go 401.
So right now, you got this massive gun on you. What is this called? AIP. Whoa. And now after your brother got shot, how do you feel about gun violence? Are you ready for the gun violence to stop? Or
hell no.
What do you got tattooed on the face?
Well, I got a tattoo on my face?
Yeah, right there.
These are my brothers. I'm a Muslim.
Muslim, okay.
Yeah.
And how many times you been done shot?
3.
You got shot right here, looks like. Another shot right there.
Right there.
Well, you got a bullet inside your body.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, and Spaz, you've been shot too, right here, right here, right here. You got one bullet shot right here, one right there, and then you have a literal bullet in your rib.
Yeah.
What kind of bullet you got in here?
It's like a 40.
40, and that hurt when I go like that?
Yeah, no, I can't feel.
So, I mean, how many people did you hang out with, and how many of those people were shot?
Yeah, I hung out with about 5 people, and each of them have been shot around 3 times each.
Dude.
And the bullet wounds are there. One guy literally, like it showed there in the video, he had he had the bullet lodged into his ribs.
Jeez. And you asked
I
that
see what
one
you're saying.
individual in that clip, like,
Just
hey, now
under
that you've
the
been
skin.
shot, are you ready to see the gun violence die down? And his answer was, hell nah.
Yeah, not only did he say hell nah, it was his brother that died, his twin brother that got shot and killed. And what they call it is the cycle. And the way they explain it to me is that, so somebody kills you, or somebody kills somebody you love, that just makes you want to go kill him and somebody else. And then that cycle just repeats and repeats. And that's why there's so much gun violence, because everyone's just trying to get back on somebody else.
Interesting.
Jeez. This is a longer.
No, you're good, brother. You're good, man. I'm running super long, dude. I talk too much. That is crazy, though. Like, what are the odds, right? What are the odds that there's a story from Nick Shirley talking to Andrew Colvett about the bullet being lodged just under the guy's skin, talking about gun violence, and the story afterwards and the aftermath is that also Charlie Kirk, the bullet that hit Charlie Kirk, was also lodged under his. Like, that is, I will say that is a tremendous kind of coincidence right there. Although I would say it's on the grain in the sand of the massive sand pile that is all of everything that's surrounding this. That doesn't make any sense at all. I will say that's crazy. I did not see that. Appreciate you pointing that out, man. Beyond there, we will get back to Erica Kirk. There's another one later down the line here. The one I wanted to just touch on for just a second is the fact that Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton are going to be 33. Come on now. That Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton will be held in contempt of Congress if they do fail to appear for their hearings with the Jeffrey Epstein investigation that's ongoing. I think that's happening at the New York Southern District, but I'm unsure. But regardless, that'll be good to see what they say, how they will approach that. Getting onto the Tucker Carlson endorsing James Fishback, I liked it, and I liked it a lot. Now, I won't play the video. Obviously, he just said, he's like, I'll vote for you. Like, that's awesome. We get that. However, the one thing I'll point out, too, there's a clip of, I won't play it, but I'll just tell you, Fishback tells Tucker that Miriam Adelson's actually been backing his opponent, Byron Donalds, and been raising a war chest against him. And one of the crazy things that he said in there was Miriam Adelson gave Byron Donalds $45 million when it was an uncontested primary. What's that money for? An uncontested primary, and you need $45 million against who? No one else is in the race. That was a bit odd. But I want to point out, though, that even Tucker Carlson is even leaving where he was at in terms of containment. And so, for example, one of the things that he highlights that it was shocking to me, it's one of the things that he highlights, is he took aim at the USA anti-Semitism czar, which, if you guys didn't know, we have one of those, yes, unfortunately, and his name is Rabbi Yehuda Kaplan. And this is just a short clip of this. I'll play it and play it in its full, and I'll stop about like the halfway mark. But this is kind of wild to see even Tucker take this position. I'm going to put it on screen here for you. I'm going to keep it in this mode because if I do full screen, I fear I will get copyright.
Values you're about to hear are much, much more common than you may realize. Here he is.
The amount of hate speech that we've seen during this time, I mean, it's off the charts. You look through social media, you see it even on television. The lines, they're not even blurred anymore. They're gone. How do you even begin to tackle such a phenomenon?
Well, I think we have to have an understanding that, first of all, in this country, we believe very strongly in free speech. It's the basis in our Constitution. And we also believe in the freedom of religion. You have to balance that. But you balance that in two ways. Europe has hate speech laws, probably some of the best on the books, but it's selectively enforced. So if you selectively enforce a rule, it's not going to have any effect whatsoever. And you can see how it's had no effect in Europe in monitoring and stopping the hate.
Horrible.
So this guy is something called the anti-Semitism czar. It's an office set up by George W. Bush, like most insane, unjustifiable things, anti-Semitism czar at the State Department, focused on one specific kind of ethnic hate, not protecting all Americans. There is no stop anti-white hate czar, of course, and there never will be, because the same people who are upset about hate are promoting that kind of hate, but whatever.
Right there, dude. Right there. I wasn't expecting this. Listen to him again. Here's what he's saying.
Focused on one specific kind of ethnic hate, not protecting all Americans. There is no stop anti-white hate czar, of course, and there never will be, because the same people who are upset about hate are promoting that kind of hate, but whatever.
He references and he compares that the anti-Semitism czar will never see the anti-white czar, will never see anything like that. And then he continues and he says, because the anti-white hate is coming from these same people. And I don't even know if he really meant to say that, but that was like, I caught that portion and I was like, this is like, I mean, now he is a snake and he's a Fed, but this is to make the point that even in the containment angle he was trying to do on Nick a few months ago, he's already had to move right from there in the next couple of months. That's to me, that's crazy. So with that, I just wanted to show you, like, Tucker's on the move. He can't keep up with the Overton window. But that's funny. And again, I believe all of this came from this last couple of interviews with James Fishback and one of the I can't remember who had it before him. But you know, this is showing you, like, this is how much the Overton window is being knocked organically, to see that this is how far the containment's got to come, you know, to be able to put everybody back in the box. No, come back here. And that was kind of it for the Tucker Carlson thing. The naval blockade, the numbers came out, how much it's costing. I don't really care about that. Take more oil, America first, America only. That's kind of where I'm at on that, to be honest with you. Some more though on like what happened today though, the Olena, which was the third Russian tanker, the shadow tanker we got. King Troll says, Fishback is a Jew, right? I don't know. I think people have said, I've seen people say that he's Latino. I've seen people say that he's Colombian. I've seen people say that he's Italian. I don't know. But regardless, we all know he's mixed with something. He definitely ain't full white. But the third Russian tanker they got today was called the Olena. And they got this one in the Caribbean here. Forgive me, I said this out. And it was stateless. It was also doing this false flying of a flag again. And this one was the Timor-Leste flag, which I'm not really familiar with at all. It was unknown still what it was carrying, as when I had checked that, so that was a few hours ago. But again, overall, this is now 5 vessels in the last, 4 or 5 days that we have now seized. And again, 3 of them being Russian, and multiple times those being pursued and being shadowed by Russian submarines, some of which reports say were nuclearly capable. Again, and then 1 being Iranian, 1 being Chinese. And so to go back to what I said at the beginning, it is very obvious, at least to me, the vibe that I'm feeling and the feeling that I'm getting is that all these moves happening across the globe, all these pieces, Greenland, Iran, Russia, Venezuela, the domestic stuff at home, all of it to me is tantamount to there is some kind of power play occurring at the highest level. And when you keep in mind and you rope in the fact that the Doomsday plane that's never been flown ever before was spotted over the Southern California earlier today, which is supposedly, and again, the Doomsday plane is the plane for the United States of America that is built to keep the United States government running if the country collapses. That was in the move and that was in the air, and it's over South Carolina right now. To me, I find all these things to be significant, and they point in the direction that there is something happening that actually involves the superpowers, and maybe that's more of where the attention needs to be paid, less so Venezuela and Iran, although those are symptoms of what's occurring. It does seem to be that there's something happening on the Russian front, I would say, and now China's getting a bit more involved because of what occurred with Venezuela. But I would say at the very least, the Venezuelan move seems to have catapulted everything else that we're seeing. It seems like once we had Venezuela, now we're going to start ramping up the immigration enforcement. And so I'm kind of curious, like, what did we need from Venezuela to give the green light for the immigration enforcement? And keep in mind, too, in addition to that as well, there's a couple other things happening, too. I've made mention multiple times that Benjamin Netanyahu has been wanting to build an independent military-industrial complex infrastructure for Israel. Now, in one of his most recent interviews, Netanyahu is now saying that he plans to have the American support for Israel be near zero in 10 years. And he's talking about building their own independent infrastructure. All of these things happening all at once, I don't think are disconnected from each other. And then when you throw in what to me is like maybe one of the more under talked about things happening, and part of it's because it's happening in Argentina, is the fact that now there's a developing story that Israeli tourists are destroying Patagonia. And a lot of people are making the arguments that they aren't Israeli tourists, but that they are instead actually Israeli spies. So we'll cover that here in a couple of seconds, but to just give you an update there as well. We got the super chat here. Thank you again, Lord of the Ree. He says, Nick Shirley speaks like he graduated from the Quality Leering Center. And that is true. And that's probably why he's best fit for being a YouTuber rather than being a commentator, if you will. You know, and Trump put out a statement. He did thank Venezuela for giving us the 30 million barrels of oil. That's a bit kind of arrogant, but it's funny. And J.D. Vance actually backed Trump. And he says this time it is, you know, at least this time, it's delivering to the American people. So I will play this one because he's both entertaining the notion of the previous quagmires of the forever wars in the Middle East, but also saying this time it's different. And so here's this clip from J.D. Vance backing up Trump.
They were Democrats and Republicans, would send the American military to far-off places. They would get us involved in these endless quagmires. They would lose hundreds or thousands of American lives, and the American people would get nothing out of these misadventures. And now you have an American president who's empowered the American military to stop the flow of drugs into our country and to ensure that we, as opposed to our adversaries, control one of the great energy reserves that exist anywhere in the entire world. And he did it without losing a single American life in the process. It was an amazing operation. It's going to make our country richer. It's going to make our country more powerful. It's going to make our country safer. And it's going to lead to the further decline of drug overdose deaths in the United States of America. An amazing thing, and I'm happy to be here to talk about how we can make it an even bigger and better operation for the American people. Thank you, sir.
Crazy thing is like, obviously we know since the DOJ has backed away from the cartel element of it, you know, they kind of admitted like, actually, maybe we did make all that up about the, you know, the Maduro being the head of the Sons of whatever that doesn't even exist. What's insane is actually that the Trump tariffs on China did more to prevent fentanyl coming into the country than anything else that's been happening. And again, because China is the number one, you know, in terms of what's making it to us, it is largely because of these Chinese precursors that's coming through and traveling through these other nations. And so it's kind of wild to see that the Chinese tariffs were more effective than, you know, had more of an impact than anything with Venezuela because it was a false pretext. And like I said before, you know, NATO is planning on defending Greenland from the United States. You also have the EU jumping in there as well. They want to pull, you know, troops from France and Germany. And, but I'll point this to you too, because this is the one I talked about earlier, but this is Trump saying verbatim, we're taking Greenland the easy way or the hard way. Let me get some of these cleared out. I apologize.
I
I would like to make a deal, the easy way, but if we don't do it the easy way, we're going to do it the hard way. And by the way, I'm a fan of Denmark too. I have to tell you, and they've been very nice to me. I'm a big fan, but the fact that they had a boat land there 500 years ago doesn't mean that they own the land. I'm sure we had lots of boats go there also. But we need that because if you take a look outside of Greenland right now, there are Russian destroyers, there are Chinese destroyers and bigger. There are Russian submarines all over the place. We're not going to have Russia or China occupy Greenland, and that's what they're going to do if we don't. So we're going to be doing something with Greenland, either the nice way or the more difficult way.
And so just one of the immediate kind of tells I get from this is the same way that it feels like when Russia was putting out for their own interests, right? They didn't enjoy the fact that a NATO and EU country was going to be bordering them, right? They had an agreement prior that Ukraine would not become, allied with their opposition. The same way that just in that rhetoric alone, it makes it seem like that they have a strong fear that, Greenland may become that thing where if Russia or China overtakes it, they don't want that presence that close to the American continent. So that one will be one to follow too, especially because I'm not too happy about hearing that we're giving another $6 billion so we can separate it to these 10,000 payments to all these people to like convince them to secede. Like we just take it. I don't care how unhappy they are. If that's the play, then bounce them out to Greenland. We can deport them over there. It's like, hey, you lost. You couldn't defend your land. That's the way that's the way the world works. We can do it non-violently. It looks like we're trying, right? It looks like we're trying to get a deal done. Hopefully we do get a deal done. Hopefully we have less violence overall. And again, I made mention too that Trump planning on meeting the Venezuelan opposition to share the Nobel Peace Prize. I felt like that's just a cringy story all around. But again, I'm not surprised. It's Donald Trump. One more time, I'll make mention of the fact that the UAE is cutting funds to the United Kingdom for the fear of Islamification. This story is insane. I'll put this one on screen. This is per Visegrad 24. And just like I said, the UAE announces it will cut funds for citizens who want to study in the UK out of fear of Emirati students being radicalized by the Muslim Brotherhood Islamists on British campuses. An Arab state now views a European state as a dangerous Islamist radicalization hotspot. Man, forgive me. Not surprised, given the track record and given the direction they were going, and seeing how the only thing Keir Starmer wants to talk about or attack is free speech. Of course. It was only going to head in this direction, and even more wild that you have a Middle Eastern country saying, no, don't go there, there's Muslims there. That is insane. Understand where you are. Like, wow. And let's see, what else did we have here that's important to cover? I'll probably save, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to save the Patagonia stuff for next time, and we can wait to see what more comes out of that too. The same thing for the resurfaced video of Erica Kirk as well, the CIA one, which like was mentioned with Jake GTV. He covered that too. But just to show you and put it on screen, this is the video that is circulating. It's from Hustle Bitch here. The video circulating does show Erica Kirk. It is looking like a kind of CIA training video is what it appears to be. I'll try to look it up. It says a 10-year-old documentary about EMP attacks and U.S. power grid vulnerability has quietly surfaced, and buried inside of it is Erica Kirk. And again, the evidence against her not being a plant is mounting by the day. And again, I would like to do a lot more digging into the actual story of the custody battle between the parents of Charlie Kirk and her before I report on it, to be honest with you. So I'll save those two for tomorrow. But going back to Venezuela and Iran, I'll touch on this last thing with Venezuela. There was a Venezuelan security guard, who had came out and said that the operation that was done to extract Maduro sent a chilling effect to the rest of Latin America. And when he's describing this, he's saying that the technology that they used wasn't even just like overpowering. He was like, it was vastly superior, stuff that they had never even seen before. And he was talking about how all forms of radar, all forms of like sonar, all of their detection systems, every single one that they had was gone. They were talking about how they had like these ear splitting techniques. People's ears were bleeding. They had like these crazy kind of concussatory and flashbang techniques as well that were very extremely disorienting. And if anything, that was a positive note just to hear that the United States military is still extremely capable. Although that it seems to be, if anything, of America is, you know, military capable of, as long as you're in another country, we can do a lot, apparently. And there's a bit more to that too, as he's describing like what was going on. But the point to take away from there was he was saying like this sent a chilling effect to every other country in Latin America, which was like Venezuela, who had all of these kind of Soviet, Russian, and Iranian and Chinese air defenses and other systems that were brought in and given to them because, you know, they're this BRICS allied nation, and all of that was just essentially made obsolete. Then it's like for all the other countries, they're like, well, dang, dude, well, we don't want to be oppositional to America because they'll do the same thing they did in Maduro, dude. And it doesn't matter what equipment we get from the other guys, like Americans will put a stop to it. That's kind of curious because that probably you will probably see some of those consequences and effects of that, the after effects of that, showing themselves in Latin America. And hopefully, again, the Monroe Doctrine would be that hopefully that does help aid the rest of South America aligning itself with the United States of America. In terms of Iran, though, this is the one that will probably be the next shoe to drop, at least what it seems in the news media that's being reported right now. And Supreme Leader Khamenei did put out a statement calling Trump arrogant, said that he would be overthrown in a pretty fiery speech when he was addressing the nationwide protest. They are still trying to give $7 per person for, to stop protesting. And he said, quote, he slammed the rioters saying, quote, ruining their own streets to make the president of another country happy. So it seems that there's already tensions in Iran, people over the belief that they're only protesting for American causes and non-Iranian stuff. And so that's kind of a different layer added on that. A Saudi official gave a statement also in the United States amidst all of this, saying that they want war. He, quote, they want war. The United States is a war empire. It cannot survive without conflict. And so now you have the Saudis coming out and putting out statements just showing that it's the geopolitical is in a very reactive form right now. Polymarket Odds now has Khamenei with a 59% chance to be outed before the end of 2026. It peaked at 61, but it went down a little bit earlier today. And Trump said, not boots on the ground, but we will hit them where it hurts. And I think there's been more statements made about that since I have already covered it. I think we have now said for sure we will strike them. But again, you need to follow up with that. I've only been able to cover it since about 5 p.m. But I would say this, Iran, of any country, it's either going to be Iran or Cuba. I would imagine those two. If there's a strike or another operation, I bet you it's going to either be Iran or Cuba. Iran, because we already know the Delta Force is then stationed in the Middle East. They're positioned over in Kurdistan, I believe, and they're in Iraq. But in terms of Cuba, not the Amphibious Ready Group, because the Amphibious Ready Group is who is assisting with seizing the tankers. It was not the USS Gerald. I might be the USS Gerald, but regardless, one of the other ones have broken away, and now there's a centralizing of U.S. power near Cuba, like north of Cuba. So that gives me the feeling that there may be something else taking place in Cuba. And also the Colombian president, I believe, is set to meet with Donald Trump either today or in the couple coming days. And this is after they kind of threatened each other. So we'll see what happens with that too. All in all, I am taking my own side. I am no longer willing to put up with the left. I am no longer willing to have a conversation with the ideas of the progressive left. And that needs to be the approach from everybody else too. They said the debate was over, and they were the ones who ended the debate when they shot Charlie Kirk and celebrated it. I think that the position moving forward not only needs to be, as we continually capture people to the right and capture people for God, Christianity, and Jesus Christ, we need to also capture people away from the left and position themselves to a very antithetical position against the left, which would be to say that we need to put pro-laws almost in place that would help like dampen and hamstring this ideology from ever establishing a position in and of itself in the country again. And by what ways we would do that, I would imagine we could follow similar laws as what was put in place with McCarthyism, the strong anti-communist stuff. And a lot of that's still on the books too. Many people make point of the fact that, you don't need any more laws. Like these people who are pushing the communism and Marxism, we already have laws on the book to, the Red Scare law stuff. All in all, it's very chaotic. I have both positive and negative feelings about what's happening right now. Domestically, it seems like for whatever occurred in Venezuela, that was like, it gave us a green light to start giving American people what they want. But I can only imagine that seems to be paired with and connected with the idea that Israel is going to start becoming its own independent state. So now America can start doing what it wants. Like that seems to be insane to me. But this is where we are. And I can only hope that we get the swiftest and most cleanest kind of efficient action from the law enforcement organizations and officials, from ICE, Border Patrol, just general law enforcement. Clamp these protests down, clean it up, get them out of the area. And I really do pray we don't have any more violence, especially not on officers who don't, who got family and kids too. But with that, I know we went a little bit long, but again, kind of like how these things happen from time to time. I appreciate everybody. I appreciate all the super chats. Obviously, the show cannot function without your guys' help and support, and I wouldn't do it if I didn't have chatters in here, because that'd be kind of boring. And who wants to talk to themselves? In terms of tomorrow, you won't probably see me until the Groyper report tomorrow, but it will be a little bit different, obviously, because there wasn't too much of Nick Fuentes this week. But we'll basically try to bring you up to speed from the last couple of episodes with Nick and everything that's happened since then, and try to do a bit more of a broad coverage. Probably a little bit of Beardson and Dubernat too. But alas, guys, Christ is King. As always, seek first the kingdom of God. This should be your number one priority above all else. And I am rooting for you guys. I know it can be difficult. A lot of you are probably in the same position as me, church hopping, feeling uncomfortable. All those things. Thank you very much for the membership. I appreciate that, brother. Thank you, and I appreciate the support, man. I was also going to say, deport Cash Patel, obviously, deport Pam Bondi. At this point, jail them, deport them, whatever we have to do. Get people in there who are willing to do the job, because that's what we actually need. And guys, Lord willing, we will get this country back. And one final thing I guess I would say would be, I feel like this is the most momentum we've ever had in the general public to abolish the 19th. I think this overall action in the national consciousness of a woman doing one of the most retarded things ever, leading to a very tragic consequence, I think is very indicative of all the things that we've been making note of for why women are not designed and built and should be in positions to make decisions or lead, because they were not built and designed by God to do so. And I would also argue, too, the continuance of wanting them to be in those positions, I would say, is actually because you hate women, because you want them to be removed from their actual natural environment, which is to be nurturers, caretakers, being around the children. But alas, appreciate you guys always. And I'll see you guys tomorrow on NEV, the Groyper Report. That is at 8 p.m. with Josh Vandernoord. And I'll see you guys there. Everybody have a good rest of your night. Take care.
Get up and get out. Get out. Get out. I have a question for you. Say Christ is Lord. Say Christ is Lord. Say it. You say Christ is Lord. Get out. Get out. Christ is Lord.